11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the Minuteman University efforts to share some info on how to create content and create an opportunity for people to network and collaborate so that we can work as Second Amendment media, not necessarily in unison, but at least all pulling on the rope in the same direction. So we try to do these workshops as often as possible, and today we've got a couple of things we're going to try to accomplish. I've got a crowdfunding project, a small one over on the Indiegogo platform, so we can talk about that. A specific goal today is to create, draw, come up with the first of 3 patches for that project, and we'll use the Adobe Illustrator software for that. And additionally, we've got invites out to lots of people that are doing 2A media projects. So if we have people jump in and have any questions or anything, we can talk about those. And then depending on how long it goes, I've got a couple of other projects I can do in Illustrator, doing some cartooning and stuff. So we've got people that are invited. We've got people that jumped in already. We've got people joining us in the text chats on gunchannels.com, a community built for conversations like this one. And then we've got the YouTube chat, the tool that we're using to facilitate all this. So everyone is part of this conversation, and we've all encourage you all to value your contributions and what you do with your contributions in going into next year. So joining us in the panel, we got Patriot from Michigan. Patriot in the Dark, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
Oh, look at this. Who snuck right in? Ghost jumped in from Arkansas. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, man. I just got the email. You went like quickly.
Oh no, I think that email just took a little while. We've been farting around. I think it's actually half an hour late. But thanks for jumping in. I farted around off there a little bit too. I'm not sure how. I was trying to kind of come up with a game plan on how to do today's show. And then Clover's joining in from Texas. Thanks for joining.
You bet. Good to be here.
So, like I say, we've got invites out to lots of people, and I encourage them to join for as little or as long as they'd like, and jump in when they can. But to hopefully today go with some of the focus on either Illustrator, the concept of the crowdfunding, or Indiegogo specifically, and then, well, we'll talk a little bit about this patch. We have to do that. But with all that said, thanks guys for joining, and I'll take a look at who's out there. I've got joining us on YouTube. So I was asking earlier how many people out there are backers of the project. So this isn't really, I mean, it's going to serve a couple of purposes here, I guess. And I guess one of them will be to promote the project. So I'm going to go grab a link to it, since I probably should have done that already. So I guess one role here is to let people know about this project, which is a Indiegogo campaign. So a crowdfunding campaign. The idea is instead of necessarily having, or instead of waiting for a project to hold its own in the marketplace, you can do some market research and get some venture capital to create a project. And it can be from little scale, small scale, to large scale. I think on Indiegogo itself, I guess I could be doing this over here in front of everybody. On Indiegogo itself, I think the smallest scale is $500. So they want the projects to be $500 or greater. I don't know if there's a high-end limit on it or not, but it allows for, like I say, market research. So you can create a project, a concept, and put it out there. You can have it as hashed out or as developed a concept as you'd like, really. I mean, I don't think the platform puts boundaries on how developed the project needs to be ahead of time. And then you want to explain your project as best as possible to whoever might find it. And then you present it for a length of time, a run, or I'm trying to say like a campaign. And then at the end of that campaign, either the money's collected or not. And assuming everything goes successfully, you develop whatever it was, either some piece of content or a product or a new service or some other creative thing, and all the people that participated either get something as a specific perk, some sort of a give and take, some sort of a token for being a part of it, or sometimes the project itself is to create a product, and the people get a first dibs or maybe a lower price at that product. If it's a piece of work, sometimes you'll get credit as being one of the people that made it possible, especially if it's something that goes on to be a series or a long-term institution. You know, it's kind of neat to be able to be the first people to kind of give something a financial lift or a push to get it up on, you know, to get that kite in the air and get some lift. So the Indiegogo is one of the platforms. There's Kickstarter and there's others, GoFundMe, and they all have their merits. So if there's any, like I said, it's supposed to be a two-way workshop. So if anybody has any questions about the project concept of doing something in the crowdfunding thing or we can definitely dive into those. But if there's not anything immediately, then we'll dig into this specific one. So this specific one is to get a couple of patches made for the Gear website store. And I did this concept last year and it worked to some extent. I think I shot too big and I didn't really take time to do the math well. So this one's a little more scalable. I think last time I tried 10 or 12 patches right off the bat. And when it didn't get funded, I still needed to make those patches. I needed product for the store. So I ended up not, you know, it wasn't a successful project financially, I guess. So this time it's a fixed goal. So on the Indiegogo platform, that means it'll only go through if it reaches its funding. It's unlike, I forget what they call it, flexible, I think is the other option on Indiegogo. In which case, if you didn't need, you know, in this case, I need to buy stuff and ship stuff. So there is a fixed price. You can't get any, you know, you can't just go into it. I don't have extra money to throw into it myself. So if you did have extra money, if it was something, a creative effort or something that you're just looking for assistance with funding, you could do the flexible goal. And let's say you only, you know, it ended at 25%. You only raised $400 of a $2,000 project. It would still go through and you'd still get a check for that 400, and you could still participate with those, however many people that might be, 6 or 8 people, and it just wouldn't be as large a scale, but you'd still be able to fund it, you know, continue with the project. But with this one, we're going to do 3 patches, and the first one is my real goal is after doing the rifle patch, the big rifle patch. I knew I wanted to do more large ones because it's neat. You know, they look good on a patch panel. They're different and they're cool. There's a reason to, you know, get one like that. It's different than your typical patch or whatever. But I made that rifle way too long. It just doesn't fit in an envelope. Actually, if it was just a hair longer, it would actually cost more money than it cost to buy to ship. Right? It would cost $7 to ship the damn thing. So when we did Clover's patch for the 2A patch, that length is basically perfect for shipping. And I'm thinking I'd like to do an AK that length. So right now, why isn't it telling me backers? They must have changed the thing around, or maybe it's because I'm logged in. I guess I'm going to go look at this off air so that you don't see everybody's names. But the people that are participating are going to get some say today as we start to dig into this as to what AK it'll be. But my idea is to do basically an AK as long as Clover's shotgun was. It's not going to be cheap. That's why I say I can't afford to just go get one of those made on the, they call it, you know, in the hopes that it sells. So this, I'm going to use the Patreon or the Indiegogo, excuse me, as a market research. You know, we'll if the project's successful, it'll tell us that there's enough people out there to make it, you know, make people want it, or that there's, what am I trying to say? That there's enough people that if there's a demand for it, that it's worth having the thing produced. So we got Rupan out there, Patriot in here, pink. I don't know if Tim is out there. Trying not to use everybody's names. Mr. Wright, I don't know if he's out there. Pants. You guys get to pick what gun we're going to use. So has anybody got any ideas? Any of you people that are actually already backers? I'm doing this on the other screen here so you don't see everybody's email addresses and everything. Actually, it's their addresses. Am I still on? It's weird having so much dead air. You need to like have a dog or a parrot in the background. a monkey running around, so there's noise.
Okay, I will be the monkey. So I'm a backer, but I have limited, very, very limited knowledge of AKs. So what would the difference be between the polymer and the wood? I think the wood would probably look better, or
No,
would it?
I don't know.
No?
What do you guys think? The wood would look like clovers or the shot the revolve the lever action. They're what do you call that?
Okay.
They don't have.
I'm a big fan of the wood furniture on AK. Are you talking about the furniture? Is that what you're talking about?
I think so.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I just mean as far as it comes through on a patch. But I've never seen them.
Well, I'm saying
I mean,
they
for
don't have
me,
the wood grain. I guess is
sorry.
what I'm trying to say. They don't have the wood grain. They're like a uniform color. They're just brown. They're not.
Okay.
So I mean, I
I
guess.
still think it would look good with the brown. 'Cause people would know. If you're an AK fan, you would know what that stands for, you know?
Well, yeah, the shape or whatever is the AK. So,
So, man, I like the brown. I like the wood idea.
all right. Well, Rupan is one of the backers also, and I just emailed you a link there, Tony. Sorry about that. This time I sent out a link like a while ago asking for people who are interested to reply back, just so that I'm not bothering everybody, with multiple. And I guess I'm still bothering them with that email. But anyway, so I only sent out like a link to 3 people to jump in. So I just sent you one, Tony. Let's see. So yeah, Travis, feel free to chime in as well. I guess my thing was if the brown of the wood on an AK can be red, it can be light color. I guess it depends on which AK we're doing. And then it's just whatever you do for wood is going to be a compromise because it's plastic, it's rubber, right? It's just, and I don't know, maybe it's worth on a large enough patch trying to get some wood grain in there, or maybe putting some wood grain detail into the stocks or whatever would give it something. But I don't know. Depends on what AK we're talking about anyway, because there's tons of them that don't even have a piece of wood on them.
Yeah.
But you're voting as a backer for a wood AK?
That was just a question. I mean, I think some of the colored ones would be pretty cool too. So why don't you guys pick out which is the first, which AK to go with? 'Cause like I said, I've got a very rudimentary remembrance of what they are. So.
Mm-hmm. So Rupan is saying the AK 100 series. So the Century series are the modern AKMs, which are they're stamp receivers. They have the same silhouette as an old 74, but there's no wood on them anymore. It's all just glass impregnated polymers. So the hand guards and the stock they look the same dimensions as the wood did back when they were the first AK-74s, but they're plastic, and the stock is like an empty plastic, how they say, like a shell. It's like super strong, but it's not solid plastic or anything. It's very lightweight. The pistol grip, same shape as the old Bakelights, but now the phenolystic resin or whatever the fuck the black stuff is called, and then the iconic shape. So this is basically be what we're talking about for a Century series. Now, Century series is vague. He says AK-100. They call them the Century because they're all the AK-100s, but that's when you start getting into NATO and you start getting into weird stuff. So you get your whatever the new equivalent of a Krink, an AKSU, a short barrel, folding stock. That's what these look like, and they've got the 90-degree gas blocks and the short barrels with the back pressure brakes on them. And then again, the same stock they're all the same stock. They all fold. So you got your standard length barrel, you got your short length or Krink, I guess. But then you also got your calibers. So your mag's either going to be 7.62 by 39, or it's going to be 5.4, or 39 by 45, or it's going to be 223. And I don't know what's going on with these. I guess I'm got to go figure out why these have super long gas systems. but these couple have super long gas systems for some reason. But basically, you're looking at 223, 762, or 545, and then so something like, again, is everybody knows what we're talking about with Clover shotgun patch. It is basically like 8.5, 9 inches long, something like that. If this gun that I'm pointing at, the crank version, was 8.5 inches long, this is going to be wider than if this gun was 8.5 inches long, right?
Yeah.
So what do you want on a patch panel? Something that's more massive, or something that's like longer? And that's one of the appeals of a 74, is that big long break, and that big long barrel and everything, and that cool gas system and the handguards and everything. AK is all about that front end. That's the sexy part of an AK. So make it short, and it's a huge fat patch. It's kind of neat and more, what's the word, like stocky. This one's going to be longer, but I don't think there's any problem. The lever action Clover shotgun, like, are they fragile? Has anybody had any problems with those being so long?
No, I think the longer would be better. And I would get rid of the 223. I wouldn't do one that was a 223 anyway.
Well, the longer too. Ultimately, if it's a longer AK design, it's going to be less rubber, right?
Yeah, exactly. Less bulk or less width, I guess we're going to call that.
So, I mean, that's what that gets into, potentially shipping weight issues. You get into some logistical stuff with that.
I tried to keep it, using my best guess, to where we can go any way we want with it.
I like the longer one.
Basically, I'm going with, I just got done watching a thing about G.I. Joes. So I'm going with the same philosophy as the first run of G.I. Joes, where they said to them, look, you can't put this much detail on the G.I. Joes. Like, they all have too much detail. You got to reduce this level, like the little grenades and the little pouches and stuff that were all painted, eyes and nose. They used to paint those little dolls up for everybody. And they said, this is too much detail in here. You got to remove this detail by 10% to get it in the price point we want. And they said, nope, instead, take that one over there, that Ninja one, and remove everything from that one. So there's going to be nothing on that one. That way we can keep our same level of detail on everybody else. And that's what they went with. And what was the best one? Snake Eyes. So I'm going with that philosophy. If the first one, the AK, gets too big, then the next patch will be smaller. That makes sense. So it'll still fit in the budget. I'm not going to go obnoxiously large with this one, but my goal is to get one that isn't profitable. That is, shouldn't be made. Like, who said it over here? 18 Tim said the gun patches are nice, but morales and flag size is more marketable and easier to wear. Exactly. Like, I'm not trying to build something that's easy fits. I want to do something that shouldn't exist, that's too big and obnoxious, and it would cost too much for somebody else to try it and have some fun with it. But and I don't do flags except for the Arizona flag.
And that's the other thing. If it gets too big, what are you going to put it on besides a patch panel? I mean,
oh, no, you're only going to put it on a patch panel, or maybe like on like your back or something.
Yeah, or a large range bag or something that you got a full side or something. So
you're going to need to carry around in a rifle case, one of them, like a Pelican case.
No.
We could do a life-size one. That's going to take a whole nother thing. What's his face? Tactical. I can't think of it. Tactical dude from California. He has my patches. I sell him what he sells my patches. Tactical. Dang, I don't want to say his name wrong. So it's the dude out of California made the A4. He made an A4 rocket launcher, full size, life size, in vinyl PVC, and it's bigger than a patch panel. It's awesome. So world's record and everything. So you can definitely do a life size AK patch. It cost a bunch of money. Somebody should do it. Somebody will do it at some point. Probably make more sense to do a life size patch panel than a patch. But now we're just talking about doing a patch basically the size of Clover's, lengthwise, and then it's an AK. So I was toying with the idea of a folded stock, like an underfolder, right? With Clover's length, that would be a big patch. The other patches will be smaller. But if we went with the 100 series or an AK-74 or Tantal or something, the big long one to get the impressiveness of all that length, then like Clover said, it'll be a skinnier patch, and it'll definitely allow the other patches to take up more of the budget.
Well, something to consider if this is just a first run and there's a plan to do this in the future, then it might be advantageous with the first run to go with the longest one and establish that, because you know, as far as fitting in the packing and all that, what your maximum length needs to be. So go with that longest one. And then with subsequent runs, with other shorter variants, then you can actually shorten those up so they're more to scale.
Oh yeah, I'm not really thinking about doing a series. There's a lot of people that do, patches, or AKs as patches, and I don't want to screw with that because there's all kinds of fun people are having. I just want to throw one in there, but I don't envision it being like a series. Can you imagine if you tried to do? Even if you dabbled, even if you just dabbled, you'd have to have an AK-47 and an AKM. You'd have to have an AK-74. You'd have to have a 100 series. So that's 4, just if you dabble, and then you start playing with calibers. And that could be a massive set of patches. And I'm just, I'm not looking to be a patch distributor for the rest of my life. I'm just trying to have some fun and to educate people on the platform, how to, fund your own projects. Bring more people in from Indiegogo platform who might be interested in something more than, to find it and find out about some of y'all projects or whatever. And then, I don't know, try to make a couple of bucks. Some products for the store, so we have stuff in the store to sell in the future. But also to share the process of how you go from concept to something you can send to me or somebody else who's doing patches and get a product at the end. So first we got to get down the process of how to get a vote in. So at this point, is anybody who's looking at the comments or anything, has anybody seen any different suggestions? Here's pink, an SLR 107. Okay. And he says nothing with rails, the traditional AK look. So an SLR 107 is a Bulgarian. It's going to look pretty close, but 90-degree glass block. And which one are we talking about? Well, he's probably talking about this one. So got triangle side folder potential. Something else to bring up. Let's get a better picture of it looking to the right. So if you have an AK going to the right, you get its selector, you get a dimple, depending on what kind of side folder it is, and if the thing is folded, right? And if you have it going to the left, it's different. You don't get selector. You've got the potential for maybe some kind of thing going on like Clover did with his thing, with his Clover, but that if it could get pretty narrow, and that could get pretty tough to get detail in there.
Well, and you also, if you have it pointed to the right, the AK platform's, safety is in itself unique, and you could get that if it's facing to the right,
This is how you typically think of AK, yeah.
It's facing to the right.
Exactly. When I think AK, that's the side that I would, in my mind, would like to see.
And now Pink's out there double voting for the OPAP, so that would be a different look, and you'd have a different color wood. It'd have, some more potential for that bold trunnion and stuff. And that's the other thing, is I want to have some fun, right? We're not just trying to put out commodity here. We're not trying to put out the cheapest patch you can buy at the truck stop or something. We're trying to make some art and have some fun with this. So there might be some potential with the 3 holes on a Yugo, and the bolt trunnions on both sides. But there's the Dracos. If I am looking at it as something to sell on the store forever, Draco Life is a thing.
I've got one. I love it.
But I'm not necessarily looking to appeal to trends, or there's going to be no yeets on this, of course. Adam is saying he thinks of the AKM slant brake when he thinks AKs. Is Adam one of the people? Look at all this dead air. This is the worst part. I'm going to leave a radio going or something. All right. So does anybody else need?
Well, Tony jumped in. I don't know if you realized that Tony snuck in.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen it. Sorry for not sending out the link. Like I say, I'm trying to gauge response by sending out that first email and stuff.
Oh, I was busy anyway. I just got back in, just got upstairs. Yeah, I was at a range today with the FN rep, trying to get actually FN to show up at the diversity shoot and run a port. So that's what we're trying to do, just to get more people in that know who FN is and want to get their hand on new FN stuff. It's like, hey, they're going to be at our diversity shoot and they're going to run a booth and you can come and shoot FN stuff. So that's what we're working at.
Right on. Trucker's saying put the Gun Channels G on the stock. Now, the Gun Channels is a project, right? That's a community, and y'all are Gun Channels. What I put on gear websites every once in a while is a Gun Channels logo or something. Somebody else doing it, but I'm not trying to blend all my stuff to make it confusing. And Gun Channels has nothing to do with AK, so no, I wouldn't put a Gun Channels G on it. Scott's saying, what about Crank? And cranks are sexy. And again, looking at just a neat patch they have, but also one that'll sell. How come?
I still think some like the original, because I mean that's where it started from. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of cool ones afterwards, but I mean when I see it, I imagine the silhouette that's on how many flags in the world. But I don't know.
One.
Is that something that's not as appealing because it is so recognizable?
Well, you're talking the full size one.
Yeah. I like to crink and just tactical it out as much as possible because it just looks so cool as the SBR thing. But each his own. But I just know SBRs are huge now.
That's a good point. As much as I love the original AK design with the wood furniture, the SBR, that's a hot thing.
Was the Yugo underfolder, the OPAP? Yeah, so NAB2. So, again, a folded Yugo would be unique looking to some extent because of 3 notches on the handguard and stuff. I'm going to get an underfolder picture. And then again, some texture with the rails and stuff when it's folded. I'm going to get a picture of when folded. So when you go to Google, you can go to the tools and choose color and hit white, and it'll give you white backgrounds if you're trying to find stuff for thumbnails and stuff. So I'll try to say underfolder and maybe even add folded, see if that works. Google's pretty stupid for that. But here's one. That would be a pretty neat patch. There's some potential for a layer here, the trunnion layer, all those ridges in the middle.
That's pretty sweet. I like that. Yeah.
But that's a boring ass Yugo underfolder. I mean, I guess it was used in a couple of campaigns and stuff. It's not classic or nothing. It's not a Russian. It's not. I mean, I guess it's like I say, it's been used in wars, but not Cold War.
I like the if you're gonna go with like a folding brace, I like the one that's like the triangle that's empty in the middle. Does that make sense?
The layered one?
What did you say now? I was reading Pink's thing.
I was saying, if I'm going to go with a folding stock, I like the one that's kind of traditional. I like the triangle one that's empty in the middle.
Yeah, the triangle side folder, and then
I like that a lot. Yeah.
Triangle. Now, of course, when you go with something like with this one you're talking about, it's going to have just a big gap, big white gap, and that would be the negative to that one. Is the patch is going to end up having that weird border around it for the stitching, and then it would cost a lot.
You could put text or something like AK Live or a hashtag or something inside there.
That's not my style. No, I'm trying to make it photorealistic.
I know. I'm just trying to say you could put some writing in there or something.
No, I'm not. There's going to be a photorealistic one for sure. Like I say, it's supposed to be something neat to look at and just have as a piece of art on the patch panel type of thing. And then you got the Romanian. I mean, there's lots of silhouettes. The G kits. I spell it right. You got that underfolder or that dongle up front. I should have put kit in there. Boom, something like this. Maybe that was more of a fun thing when we were buying these kits for $50. But that gives you a length and it gives you a bunch of stuff going on. But it's a specific gun. It's less of a generic AK. All right, so how am I going to do this? I guess one way I can do this is I can go over to Google, right, or Chrome, and go into Drive. And once you're in your Google Drive, you can go to New, and down under More, you can find Forms. I'll just make a Google form here, and we'll call it the right letters, and then put some options in here. So patch number 1. And what was the first option was the AK-100. Then the second was the OPAP. And we got a crank. What am I missing?
Are you staying away from the 47 or 74's traditional look?
Nope, I'm just going with whatever thing so that we can start voting on it already.
I think the 74 is like a classic. Like when people think of AK, I think that the 74, the 47 with the wood furniture is what most people think.
Then
I think.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I think we're to the point now because really most patch guys are gun guys, and it's either going to be between a totally modern AK, and I'm going for a totally modern, SBR in my mind, or a traditional. I mean, that's just going to be the two choices. But what's traditional? You know what I mean? I like the Romanian because it just screams AK and is unique, but that's me. I have weird taste.
So I hear you. I'm gonna go with, to make it an option, because the 74 and the 100 from a silhouette are not going to look that different. I mean, that's a 100, and I go AK-74 over here. It's not going to look that heck of a lot different. I think from a silhouette, the wood is going to be a heck of a lot different than the black. So that would be a big difference. So maybe I should just leave that. So this is the black poly, and then this would be your wood. Crank would be the small one. It doesn't have a stock. The OPAP would be, I'm going to say, an underfolder, folded. So that would be an option if you wanted to see something like that underfolded one. Oh, what am I saying? Cranks have stocks. Duh. So the crank would have the stock out, and it would be the triangle. I just can't see making this crank with the solid stock. It would look dumb, right? Like, why not? You would want to make it with the triangle, I think. And then the SLR is Pink's Bulgarian.
I like the 107. It's a good looking, rifle.
And then I guess, the big difference there between that and a 74. I guess I'm going to say this one is going to have the triangle also. So this way there's some. Okay, so now you can go with their straight, long AK-74 and AK-100, a black polymer look. Go with the underfolded wood look. Go with the classic crank with the stock extended. The classic 74 with the wood, or basically the classic with the triangle stock. So now we've got some choices in there. We'll click send, and then what does that do? Now it lets us put a link to that. So we'll take that link and we'll drop it in here first because the people on the panel are here. And then we'll give it to the Gun Channel site because they're paying for their access. And then we'll give it to the YouTube site because that's the tool we use to facilitate this. So if that link works, vote. And then we'll cancel that, and I'll go look at the responses right here. We'll see what comes up. What we got going on here? Ghost is showing his Hugo pistol. Oh,
Yeah,
snap. I didn't think about doing a pistol with a brace.
That's what I was thinking with a brace.
Oh. Can I go back and add one? Let's see if I can go back and add one. I can. So I'm going to say add other, and then, add option. Here we go. That is kind of neat. And a lot of people have those and not SBRs, right? So,
yeah.
I think it just updated. What happens? What happens when you click on that? Somebody screen share and show me what happens when you click on that. I'm curious.
Do you have to redo the link or?
I don't think so. Should have just updated the form. Got 0 responses. I only got 1 response now. It's going to be a crank at this point. So it worked for somebody. Oh, Scott said pistol with the brace early. I just didn't see it. I blame Ghost and Patriot and Tony and Clover for not seeing it. That's how we win 2A. Just learn how to blame. Bring a lot of people around. You have more people to blame, and you're never wrong. Honda said he doesn't like AKs and should do a Ruger 1022. And we'll jump over, hit. Oh, we got 4 responses. Look, is it real time? I didn't refresh nothing, so that might be real time. Now we have a 4-way vote or 4-way tie between the AK with a pistol brace, classic, crank, and the wood. There's 5. That's neat. It updates automatically. So this is something that you could set up beforehand on a chat or something. If you're going to do some sort of a thing, you could set this up on the fly like I just did. Just go to Google or Chrome. I shouldn't say Google. You just go to Chrome and it opens up to this, whatever the hell page this is. Click on them little dots, whatever the hell they are, and click on Drive. And then you got all kinds of stuff in Drive. You've got a Google Drive with 17 gigs of space. I don't pay for that. And then click New. And then there's all awesome stuff like Word documents and spreadsheets. Click on More, and then there's Forms. And I think you can even drag that if you use your Forms lot. I think you can drag this up the list. But anyway, click on Forms, and that's how I set it up. It's permanent, so you can use that forever. It'll go into a spreadsheet. So I'm going to click over here and create a new spreadsheet. Leave responses there. I'll call it the Kalash patch number 1. And now there's going to be a Google Doc, a spreadsheet in my Google Docs. It's going to show it to me here with everybody's response. Now, if I would have put in there additional questions, if I go back to the questions area and I add more questions, right? I only asked 1 question, but I could add more questions and ask things like your name and your, what color, like whatever the hell things you might need. You can change it from multiple choice to all different kinds of things, like leave an answer, have some check boxes, drop downs, and then again, open-ended questions and stuff. You can automatically put a date in there, or if you're gonna say like, hey, when should we do this? You can have a date thing set up so that they put it in automatically in a nice date format. Anyway, kind of neat. You delete the pieces you don't want. And it
Hey,
looks like
Agorizer out there says you may want to limit the response to like 1 per person. Is there a way to do that?
yeah, if people want to game the system, then live with that karma of gaming the system here. But yeah, that's probably a good idea. I think there was a simple box there to click, right? 1 response per person or something was a response somewhere, I think.
And I don't want to go back too much, but Two Gun Kitties out there says, new to the patch thing, what's going on? Do you want to explain maybe what the significance of the patches are? Or no?
Okay, so new to this patch thing is what's happened. So what we're doing right now is a couple of things. This is a 2A workshop. I try to host these as often as possible, create rooms where we talk about how we create content, how we keep our projects going, especially those that are 2A related. So I send out links to a lot of people, and today we're doing a project in the 2A workshop, and the project is an Indiegogo campaign. The Indiegogo campaign is about patches. So what we're doing today is kind of threefold. We're going to create the patch and have some fun just using some of the tools that are available so that we can share how these tools are used. And we're going to accomplish creating a patch today so that the patch gets created, so we get it going. Patch is just because it's a a non-perishable, easy to ship, interesting catalyst for keeping things funded and people interested and all of us able to do what we're doing. It could easily be anything else. It could have been a sticker, it could have been a t-shirt, it could have been a hat pin, it could have been a cookie cutter, it could have been something somebody's in a 3D print, it could be something somebody's going to carve out of wood, it could be just a chapter in a book, right? So that wraps it up. So let's go back over to the responses. It looks like it's pretty overwhelming, AK-74 in wood. Is it being gamed? Let's go find out. I find out if it's being gamed. I guess I don't know.
I've only voted once.
There's 13 responses? Yeah, 12 responses. I mean, I guess it's possible, but there's only 5 votes for wood. So there was just a couple of votes for some of the other things. So I guess we're going to go with AK with wood. I guess let us know if you did not get to vote or if you have a real problem with that. And you're a backer, because I have no problem with continuing the debate. There's a reason.
So it being a AK-74 and in wood, that's going to be a long, thin patch, correct?
Correct, which is sort of the point.
And that matches kind of with the other ones that have already been made.
Has anyone done a photorealistic patch of Kalashnikov holding his gun? I've seen some of those that are like, I think they're laser etched on vinyl or something, and then they sew a border around them and put the Velcro on. I think I've seen something like that, or maybe the kind where you take like a picture and you just apply the picture to a piece of vinyl and then sew Velcro to it. I want to say I've seen something like that, but it might have been that guy saying "niet," you know, that pushes the gun away. You're trying to put his stuff on his gun. Boom. So 13 responses. We're going with the AK-47 in wood, or AK-74 in wood. So I think we're going to go with this picture. Where's this from? Wikipedia? Go with that picture. So we'll just copy this picture. It's the easiest way to do it. It's pretty big. So sometimes I'll open the picture in a new window. Look how much bigger that one is. So this one seemed kind of big, but this one's bigger. So I'm going to go copy this one. And we can get rid of a bunch of this stuff just to give my computer less to deal with. Let me keep that one, kill all this. Oh. Drag this stuff over here, and then we'll open up Adobe Illustrator. So Adobe is a pretty powerful software package. It's been around for a long time. They're a suite of software packages, right? And they cost, well, now they're a subscription service, so they cost something like $50-$60 a month to have all the programs, or $30-ish if you just want to use one or two of their programs. I think it's actually one of their programs is something like $30 a month. So it's not necessarily your only option, and it's not necessarily the best option. It's just one that I happen to be familiar with. Angelina from Allen Acre was real fluent in it, and she showed me a bunch of tips and tricks. So over the last year or so, I've just put more attention into learning this one than some of the others, but there's certainly other graphic software out there. So Tony, what do you use? What's your go-to for image software?
I have nothing.
Do you use any of it though?
What was that?
Do you use any? Do you have any? Do you ever? I mean, you must have, manipulate images sometimes.
Nope. Nope. Only thing I use is my telephone to post stuff on social media. I'm going to have to start putting in work. I'm going to have to start improving everything I do. And it's just on my long list of things I must get better at.
Well, I don't know. Put it on a list of things that are there, but I don't know if that's necessarily a priority. So what you're doing is you've accomplished plenty. And if you're doing it on your phone, you just are not, you're just thinking of the same things differently because you are using tools. Obviously, you're using them on your phone as well. So this one is on my computer. This isn't the best way to do it. And I think there's a version of this on the phone if I wanted to do it. If my phone could handle it. If I had Clover's phone, I could probably do this on my phone. But I don't know if you need to do this old-fashioned stuff. This is a huge. This is like going to Home Depot and buying everything in the store to come home and fix a gasket. You know, it's possible to fix a gasket with a home toolkit. And this is a lot of extra stuff for what I'm actually accomplishing out of it. I don't have the skills, or I don't use the pieces of this that are there. So anyway, what stuff for your phone are you using?
So I use to do the logos and to do the posters for my show. I use Logo Logic. So that's taking a picture from my phone, putting it in Logo Logic, and then of course being able to write over top of it, being able to put my logo on it. That's what I use mostly. Anything other than that is just the picture thing in my phone to make pictures look better. The editing software on my phone.
Okay, so in other words, just the, like, if you go to your phone, you click on a picture and then like hold it down and click edit, like just whatever your phone gives you for the editor.
Yep, that's what I do.
Those work really well, actually. And then I know that you do the thing where, I don't know what to call it, like where you stick 4 pictures in one Instagram. Is that same
Yeah,
software?
layout. Yeah, I use that. I use layout. I find the pictures I want. I set them up, and then I go put that picture, save it, Logo Logic, and put logos or writing on it. I do it every week for Gun and Gear Review podcast, and then I do it every week for our show, 2A4E podcast. I just try to get people to. It's a poster. It's something on social media, and hopefully it's working.
No, it's working fine. And that's why I assumed you were using Photoshop, because I'm old fashioned. I've been doing it since the days where I would have done that in Photoshop. But if you're accomplishing that on your phone, that's all that matters. And what really matters is what, for like last 5 years, every other month or so, you've been getting people together in New Jersey to shoot and to experience firearms and to feel comfortable and to share that and to have an experience that they can take home into the real world. So anybody that's going to tell you you need Photoshop, I'm going to tell them, go do what you've done. And yes, I'm not trying to, we're definitely not calling anybody out here. In fact, what I am doing is if anybody knows Photoshop and wants to lend a hand, you have an extra minute or two during the week, get with Tony and find out if you can help him, help him with stuff. There's no reason for Tony to learn Photoshop when you've got Photoshop sitting on your computer, or maybe there's
Tony, I love Photoshop. I'll help you anytime I can.
But I'm saying there's no reason for him to learn it. I mean, if he needs tasks accomplished that are done in Photoshop, wouldn't it be great if just 15 people that own Photoshop could do that for him?
I'll do some stuff for you.
But
I appreciate it, man. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm calling Tony out, but that's what these 2A workshops are for. If you have ability, you have skills, you have talent, you have time, it's the ultimate resource. Or if you need, then join in these workshops. That's what we're trying to get people together so that we don't bother wasting our time doing everything again, right? Patriot, do you do photo editing and all? What are you using?
Yes, I use the app called 11-Year-Old Kid.
Okay, so you just have your kid.
Basically, I set everything up the way I want it, and take the picture. Then I ask her, "Hey, is this upside down or whatever?" But I just use my phone. The iPhone with the new updates. They do describe what the images are sometimes. I mean, it's random. It's not perfect or whatever, but it lets me know, where the face is or what I'm, if it's in center or whatever. As far as effects and stuff, randomly stuff like for Instagram, I'll ask her to see if there's a filter that looks good. But other than that, I don't use anything. Or I use Ghost or Clover.
Right on.
Or Angelina.
Ghost, what is your go-to?
For non-phone or phone?
Oh, either. For what is your go-to? So do you go to
Photoshop?
Wait to go to the computer, or do you fiddle with stuff on the phone and then use the Photoshop when you have to?
I use Photoshop for probably 95% of stuff. The only time that I really use my phone for editing stuff is if I take a picture with my phone for Instagram or something. And then I use an editor, and it's called VSCO. And it's a great editor. It kind of gives you about 100 different options to edit the visibility of your picture. But that's what I use for my phone. But most of the time, if I'm not on my phone, it's Photoshop 100%.
Right on. Ghost or Clover, what's your go-to? He's in here twice and I haven't talked once.
I'll use Photoshop if it's desktop related. If it's going to be, thumbnail, it's going to be something like that. If we're talking about Instagram, very rarely do I move anything from the phone over to the computer to mess with Photoshop for Instagram. Usually that can be accomplished either with the built-in app within the photo gallery. And the only other outside app I use is the watermark app.
Okay, so you're using an app just to watermark, and then only to watermark, or does that app do other things for you?
It will do other things too. It'll add text and do all kinds of other things, but I basically just do that to lay the watermark in because I can do all of that other stuff in the photo gallery on the phone.
So I'm going to take a second and address some of the questions that look like they're coming in. So is there 1 or 3 patches in this batch? There's going to hopefully be a bunch. We're doing 1 today. The second one will be a spam can. I might do that Tuesday or next Saturday. I don't know. And I guess there's only 18 days, so I'll probably do it Tuesday or sometime this week. And then a third one will be a humorous one. And I've got a couple ideas, but I'll probably set up another poll like I just did and let people vote. And the 3 will be a collaboration like that. The funding, where's that? I should leave the link up to the thing. If the stretch goals or whatever, if they get met, then additional patches will go. So ideally, we'll hit 5 or 6. Ideally, if we can get enough people involved. Yeah, it'll be 3 for sure, and then more with stretch goals. All right, so now let's get into the difference between Photoshop and Illustrator. So I'm using Adobe Illustrator. You guys have been saying Adobe Photoshop. So just to clarify, a lot of times we use Photoshop like Kleenex or like Walkman. Like nobody uses Walkman anymore, but you know what I'm saying? Like we use the name brand as a kind of overall catchphrase. But you guys are talking actual Photoshop as opposed to Illustrator, correct?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Okay, so the big difference here is Photoshop, there's 2 different kinds of images on the internet or on computers, basically. There's the type of image where there's, a 6 by 6 inch square, and that's got a whole bunch of pixels in it. And if it's going to be a red circle and a white square, it's going to be a whole bunch of white pixels and then a whole bunch of red pixels. And Photoshop deals with images, they're called raster images, that are made up of a bunch of little dots of pixels or whatever, a bunch of little dots of color. And very much like a dark room. If you take a picture with the old-fashioned film camera, you would need to develop that film, and you would develop that using chemicals and stuff. And the process that you use to develop it would give your negative its characteristics. So typically, you would develop that film with as many potentials as possible, and then in the dark room, what you would do with that negative is create the actual finished product. So your negative, your original picture turns into a negative. That's your, that was your starting point for a whole nother piece of creativity, and that was in the darkroom. And that's what Photoshop emulates. It gives you the ability to adjust brightness and darkness, and to add remove a fence post from the middle of a grassy field if it's not appropriate for the layout of the picture, or if you need to change someone's head to a different angle, or all those different things you hear about in Photoshop. Where Illustrator is different is it's used as a vector image, and it's instead of being a white, or that red circle and a white square, it's going to make a mathematical equation for that red circle and a mathematical equation for the white square, and feed the computer the image that way in a vector image as opposed to a raster. And it's just a different type of image. The characteristics of them are that a Photoshop image looks very realistic. It's a photo. It's a Photoshop. It's an image. Where the Illustrator, you can really spend a lot of time and make it look picture quality-ish, but Illustrator is going to be more your cartoons and your graphics and your illustrations. It's going to be it's going to be your cartoony looking things more, and your words and your graphics. And the advantage of the using Illustrator is that it can go scalability from very, very small to very, very large easily. So when we talk about printing and we talk about transferring something from a computer image into a machine code to run a machine, or to give a machine a path to run its machine, to do its job, it's easier to take a vector image into that machine process than it is of Photoshop. It just removes one level of rendering or whatever. So I just happen to use the Illustrator, but very similar programs as far as their power and their abilities. Just they're just kind of like the difference between Mac and Windows, right? They're just a little different the end result is basically the same. All right, so with that, I'm going to create a new one, a new file, a new thing, and I have a folder over here on my hard drive where I keep the stuff for this project. So we'll eventually get this thing to pop up, and we'll just call it patch number 1. Or 1, actually, not capital 1. And then it gives us a blank slate. And we've already copied that image before, so I'm going to take a look at my screen here, and I'm not trying to make this a tutorial necessarily. Most image software is going to have something like this. It's going to have some tools, some things you can do. It's going to have some file stuff, some places to put stuff, and some various tools and things around the edges. When I'm working in my workspace here, I can zoom in and out. I can think of this like a desktop or like a drawing board. I can have one sheet of paper here, or I could have a whole tablet of paper here. So I'm going to first give myself some room. I'm going to give myself some layers over here. So I'll take this layer randomly and put that picture down. I'll paste that picture down. So that giant picture that came off the web looks like this now. And just to make it look better in the screen here, we'll do this. We'll zoom in a little bit. And I could probably, you could probably send me a picture like this and we could make it work. We could turn this into a patch for you. But we're going to play around a little bit here and dink with it a little bit. So the first thing you can do is take it from the type of image that Photoshop uses. It's a raster image right now, and I can trace it or convert it into a vector image, and there's a tool here that lets me do it. It's not a perfect tool. There's, it's a creative thing here. Who knows what you might want from this? You might just want it to be a silhouette. You might just want it to look like that, right? But that might not have anywhere near the level of detail you want. So you could go with this high fidelity photo version of it, which is going to give me as close, you can't even hardly tell the difference. That's a very photorealistic look, but what's really happening there is that's probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of mathematical equations. And if I were to zoom in on this, I wouldn't see any pixels or anything, but what I would see is like a paint by number set. Each of these little splotches is a different shape that's being defined by a mathematical equation. No big deal. It's just that that's not going to translate into a patch very well, right? They just can't pour rubber with that many colors and swirls and stuff. So I'm going to undo that step, and now I'm going to try to do it as a low fidelity photo. See what the result is there. And fewer colors, but still too many for what we're trying to do here. So I'll undo that. I've just been hitting Control Z on my keyboard to undo every time. If we went to 3 colors, that would be neat, but I suspect that's going to be too few, right? Let's see what happens when we go to 3 colors and let it render. That might look neat for some sort of a banner or some sort of a signage or something like that. It has kind of a neat effect, right? But it's not going to work for our patch. That would look shitty. So jump back out and try 16. Well, 16 colors is going to be too many. We're never going to make a patch with 16 colors, right? That would be just obnoxious. So we'll try it with 6 colors. And you see what happens with the 6 colors is we're getting closer. We've got some basic shapes here, but there's still a lot of swirl and stuff. This is probably one angle I could go after. If I wanted to go after it with this process, I could click expand, which is going to follow through the rest of the process. And now if I ungroup all this stuff, I can kind of show you that this is an individual piece. Like if I delete it, it's gone, right? This is an individual piece. So I could probably go in and start changing some of these individual pieces. Try to scroll here and zoom in on that stock. Since those are kind of like a paint by number set, right? I could just start grabbing some of these different colored pieces, and I'm going to hold down the shift key and just start clicking on these things so it'll include all these different pieces I'm clicking. Let's say I just include all these different colors of gray and orange, and now I'm going to say make all those colors using this eyedropper the same as that color. And what I can do there is kind of manually convert this multicolor, weird molted looking stock into a uniform color. And I'm not going to go through this whole process, but you could see, like, if I did that for a while, that, it would give us a better version of what we're looking for. We need something with fewer pieces, fewer elements and colors, for this overall patch, but not going to look right? It's still going to have some weirdness going on up here. So I'm going to undo, 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 and we're back to that original picture that we undo, undo. Now we're back to that original picture again. I think I'm going to, at this point, quit trying to have the software turn it into an image, because it's just, I knew it wasn't going to, but I was trying to show you some of the features of the software here. It's just not going to be able to get what we're looking for out of it. Although, again, that's kind of a neat thing right there. That's kind of, you could use that in a video or something, right? That's kind of cool looking. And that's just 2 clicks, you know, copy, paste, and then 1 click on the dang software. But what we're going to do now is lock that, or I shouldn't say, we're going to highlight this thing, and we're going to drop it down a little bit. Fade it out to maybe 40% or something like that, and then lock that layer. So now I can do whatever I want on the screen, and it's not going to keep touching that thing. And then we'll dig in. We're going to start to just draw one here. But before I do, I'm going to see anybody's chatting out there. And pause if you guys want to say anything here, because this is not necessarily a tutorial, but a workshop. Ink is saying Lightroom is good for phone pic editing. He mostly uses the Instagram editing tools. I use those Instagram tools a lot also. I'll maybe go set it up in another thing, like what Tony does, to get like 3 or 4 images on the screen, but then I'll let Instagram do the light and dark and contrast and all that.
Basically what you're doing in its most basic sense is you're going to be tracing, basically, right?
I'm about to trace, yeah. So Pink is asking, can you make that a curved mag? I certainly can, because 762 by 39 beats 545 any day of the week. So I guess one thing is I'll need to go back to that screen wherever it went and go grab a picture of an AK-47. Oh, went to my own website. How about just AK-47 and get a picture? And that's an airsoft gun. How about a real gun? Yeah. Go back and choose tools and color white. That's close enough for government work. We'll open that in a new window. Got that giant picture now. Copy that. Close, close, close. Go back over here, and I'll just grab another layer and paste it. And I'll just kind of wiggle it. Oh, I guess the first thing I'll need to do is, just so that I can see what's going on, I'm going to image trace it to high def. That takes a second. And then once it does, I'll expand it. So I did kind of what we were showing before, because I don't care at all about this picture. So now what I can do is ungroup it, and I can take all that white and delete it really quick. I don't know if you can kind of see what I just did there. I'll highlight it all again and group it again, so I don't have to deal with it all being individual pieces. And now I can kind of set it. Oh man, it just happened to work out pretty close. Look how interesting that is. I mean, that pistol grip and trigger guard could not be more perfectly the same, right? Same scale, everything, hand guards and everything. But look how different the front end is on a 74 and 47 as far as sight radius. Anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna, now that I've got rid of that background, be all grouped together. Is it not now? Anyway, so now that I can move it without the background, you can see how I'm using it to, you know, what am I trying to say there? It gives you that skeletonized view. I can use that to line up. I'm using the trigger right now, trigger guard, and then boom, I know that's right on. So now I can use that magazine whenever it comes time to use the magazine. So I'll lock that layer, and with that little eyeball, I made the layer disappear, so it's not in my way. It doesn't look weird. So now we're back to just this one, and just like Clover said, we're just going to lay a layer down above it and start drawing. So I'll just grab a pen tool, which is like a crayon or a marker or something. I'm going to get rid of the fill because I'm not trying to create a shape. I just want to create a line, and I'll just draw in black because that's easier than anything else. And we'll just start somewhere. So I'll zoom in and just start dropping lines. So we're going to want to run some sort of balance between detail and being aware of, like, what the patch can actually do for detail. And I don't think there's any need for me to just narrate this whole thing. So I'll just keep going, and now we can talk about whatever, because I've got a task here. What do we want to chat about next? Anyone? Bueller?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to come back. I downloaded Lightroom, and I was looking at how to just move stuff around on my phone. Um, because again, I was there at the range, and I had someone take some pictures of me while I was shooting, FN stuff. Because I'm trying to use modern firearms to pretty much bait tactical Timmies to come to the diversity shoots. Um, it seems like a lot of these people think, I take pictures of stuff that new shooters shoot. So yeah, I'm taking a picture of a regular Glock 19 or SR22. Like most of my pictures of guns I own or from my friends own that they introduce new shooters to. So no one's coming out with like, a pimped out agency arms anything. So when I get a chance to get some of those things, I take pictures of it, but I'm only using the editing software that's on the phone, that comes with IG. So I figure if I step up the game, I get more pictures like that, I get those companies or somebody with that stuff to come to an event, I might open it up to a new demographic that actually needs to be politically active. It's not so much getting them shoot guns, it's getting them to get off their butts and leave the range and go to the voting booth or come out to an event like a rally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I'm working on, just growing the event by getting these guys in. That's why I went to like kniferights.org, and I can get some of the knives that these guys dig, like, Spyderco, not Benchmade, and other things, and just get these people to start coming because maybe they can win some stuff, Crossbreed donated a holster and some more gear. But the sucky thing is Jersey's not a big carry state. So people have won a Crossbreed Super Tuck like 3 times and went, I don't really carry. Here's it, at the end of the event, they gave it back to me to use at the next event.
Oh, that's
So
I never thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah, Crossbreed gave me, a certificate. So what I told them I was going to do is when I host my event in PA, more people in Pennsylvania carry, so that might be a better giveaway item for that state. I don't try to waste anything, man. I try to use everything people gift me.
We got you there.
I do have a question. I'm sorry I had to jump out there, but since you're doing your drawing task I'd like to find out their views on like stores or your shopping, or if you're trying to promote things. I know like there's gear websites .com, Clover's got a store, that kind of thing. What for somebody that's not that big, that doesn't have a bunch of things, but like I have patches and stickers, and say I wanted to set up something that's a little easy. It's not something hard, but it's to promote and then also move the cause forward. You guys have ideas?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you've already got a website, something like that going on, right? The WooCommerce plugin for a WordPress website is, I mean, it's about as easy as you can possibly imagine to manage and to set all that up with the integration and everything else. And then just you can use something like your PayPal, for example, for your processor to process payments and whatnot. Yeah, and it all integrates really seamless. It's all easy to set up the products, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, a lot of people use, they do like an Etsy store or whatever. or a lot of people will use eBay, for example. Um, just link and send people over there. The problem you run into, I'm not familiar with Etsy. I can't speak to that at all. Somebody else has to do that if they're familiar. But I've done stuff for years and years on eBay. The problem on eBay is you're going to get hit with those listing fees. So, if you set up a store and you do bulk items and stuff like that, you can of course minimize some of that. But you're gonna have like a double hit, right? As opposed to something like, say, WooCommerce on your own website. The only fees that you're gonna have to pay is the whatever basically like a credit card fee would be in a retail establishment. You're gonna have to pay that 3% on the PayPal side, but or you'll lose rather. You know what I mean? When they pay, you won't get the full amount. You'll get the full amount minus 3%. Whereas with eBay, basically that same thing is going to happen, but then, at the end of the month or whatever, you're going to have listing fees and things you're going to have to take care of as well. So WooCommerce and your own website is probably the way to go, and that's a lot more independent and a lot more flexible. That's my opinion.
All right, I've had people suggest like the Vidmo, and I mean some people even use like the Messenger on Facebook or something for stuff that's not steps. Like me, I don't have my own website. I used to, but that was a long while ago, and it was something different. So I haven't actually stepped up and did a new website. So I haven't had anything. I mean, currently, basically all I've done is sent out my PayPal me link for donations for and then I just send some stuff out or whatever, you know. But that's there is a fee and stuff. I mean, it's whatever it is, but being established and having a website and then obviously putting in those plugins would be. And they basically will just contact you and give you an email or an alert that says, so and so bought this or has purchased this, and then you just go ahead and ship it out the same way as.
Yeah, you'll get with WooCommerce you're talking about, through the website. You can I don't know, you can set it up a lot of different ways in the plugin. You can go into the settings and you can do a lot of different things as far as notifications and how you want that set up. I just run by default. I've played around with some of that a little bit, but default seems to work really good. And one cool thing you can do is, and it gets squirrely. So as far as inventory goes, always make sure that if I have, let's say, 10 items, I only put maybe 8 in inventory, because sometimes it gets screwy and it'll sell stuff even though stuff might not be in inventory. And even though I have that set, right? Because you can set it to where you don't allow back orders and set it to where at so many items it warns you that the stock is low and all that kind of stuff. But still, sometimes the software screws up. So outside of that, as far as people ordering goes, you'll get 2 emails. If you run it through PayPal, you'll get the first email, which will be from the store itself. And it will be completely itemized. It will say, what they purchased. It will say, have whatever the itemized plus the total and all that good stuff. And then also have their billing and shipping address in there. And then you'll get one from PayPal, basically a confirmation from PayPal as well. It's important though, if you're using the WooCommerce, I save a copy of both of those emails regardless. But to me, it's important to definitely not, I don't work off of as far as shipping out and keeping track. I keep those PayPal emails, but I don't really work off of those. I just use those as verification that, hey, that was paid. And then I dump those into a folder. And the reason is because that sometimes the PayPal email, sometimes the way it itemizes or the shipping address sometimes is not in there. So it doesn't have all the information you need to fulfill, I guess, that order.
Mhm.
But
All right.
PayPal is also good. I mean, assuming all that information is in there, you can print your shipping labels and do all of that right from PayPal. So I mean, that's handy. But the problem is, not everybody has their address linked up inside there for whatever reason, or at least not set up. Maybe not set up where it shows.
Yeah, currently the way I was doing it was I'd have people just email me, say they're interested, and then, have them email me their address. And then once I get the confirmation that they actually did a, payment or whatever, then that's when I'll just fulfill, send it out. Which I'm just doing a couple things here and there. I'm not anything big for sure yet. Is Ghost does the same thing just off his website
As far as what now?
as far as like your shop selling your patches or hats or whatever?
I use a PayPal link. I'll create a link on PayPal, and then I'll embed that link onto the website or something like that. But I used PayPal links.
Okay. Oh, so they just hit the link and then it goes there. They purchase it, then you get an email from PayPal, and then that's when you send something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right.
Tony, what are you using for a store?
I'm not. This has to be set up because something happened to my thing, so I have to work on that. Hopefully, I can do some Monday and get the website going back like I want it to. I know I already have PayPal, so I might be able to use that and just integrate it into it since it's not anything firearms. It's a patch.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's no pew pew with a patch. So hopefully that can be something, and I can just launch it on the different podcasts and let people know it's available on diversityshoot.com and roll with it, and hopefully sell some patches.
So I like the Clover's idea of eBay because that's not only a platform that's designed to make it easy to deal with. It's made for anybody. You don't have to be a computer wizard or anything. You don't have to be a what's the word? Like, you don't have to be in business or something to use eBay. It's like a garage sale. It's made for people that just want to sell some stuff. So, and then of course it can go all the way up to there's giant businesses on eBay, and stores have presence there and stuff. So not only is it easy to use, and you've got a viewership right away, like an audience. So in other words, if you're going to put your products for your project or whatever on the internet anyway, you got to host it. You can either pay for that hosting, which you probably should anyway, but an alternative would be to have it hosted, by somebody else. And if you're going to have it hosted by somebody else, why not put it on a giant platform? Sort of the same idea of YouTube, right? So eBay's cool for that, but then you also, well, for all the stuff Clover just said, like, you can manage the orders and stuff if you don't want to deal with shipping, and if you don't want to have like a shipping provider like what I deal with. I have a company that I ship through, so I can either go through the U.S. Postal Service directly, on their website. Anybody can, but that's usually whatever it costs, whatever it costs to ship at the post office. I go through a company called Shippo, which is some sort of wholesaler. So they go to the post office, and I don't know what they do. They order like shipping, by the wholesale it or whatever. So I get it, a couple of cents cheaper, but it also just facilitates the shopping cart I use to facilitate everything. But eBay can incorporate those kind of things, or if you don't want to deal with something like that, you don't ship enough to need to have some sort of a service like that, then eBay gives you direct access. The eBay shipping tools are basically the same shipping tools I have with a service. It's just that, like I say, the cents different. If it's $3.80 for me to ship it, it's $4.15 on eBay. It's like not that big a difference. and you don't have to deal with having all that stuff. So if you're just going to occasionally sell something, or you just want to have something available, you can't catch a fish if you're just standing there looking at the lake, right? You're going to have a hook and hook in the water once in a while. That gives you a place to put that hook in the water where there's some other fish floating by. And I still say there's something to considering eBay a platform. And if your goal of your project is outreach and to reach people, then it's another place to reach people. They might not be expecting it, they might not be looking for it, but there's certainly people, scrolling around surfing eBay, and they got money. They're on eBay because they're looking to buy something. That's a nice audience. Etsy, though, I don't think there's any difference between the whole eBay thing I just said and Etsy. I just don't use Etsy. But for something like a patch, that's basically art. That's pretty much what Etsy's for, right? Artistic stuff.
Oh, okay. So you suggest like doing both of them, right?
Heck yeah. Yeah, I'm on Etsy. I'm on eBay. I've been on eBay since a long time ago. But there's got to be others that I'm just not thinking of that are for selling. Amazon.
See, I've never dabbled with Etsy. Is it difficult to get going, or is it pretty simple?
It's the same thing as being on Instagram and being on Snapchat. It's just different software interface, but
Okay.
same time and effort. I don't know. It depends again on what you're doing. But let's say the diversity shoot, that's reaching people in all different kinds of walks of life. So people on Etsy might feel more comfortable having a presence there. You never know who's going to come across it. And if I put something like, here's an AK-47 patch on Etsy, some grandma might be like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe my grandkids will be interested in that, or my husband or something, right? But if it was, hey, here's a diversity shoot in New Jersey, I'm guessing there's probably some people in New Jersey on Etsy, right? So I think it doesn't cost nothing to put stuff on there. They might run you off, or they might just ignore you, right? Because it is sort of, from what I understand, it's more like crafts. Somebody makes something in their garage or their workshop, or they sew something, or they build something on their 3D printer. They put it on Etsy. It's like not one. Well, it can be one-offs, but it's handcrafted things, as opposed to I came up with an idea, I had 1 billion of them made, and I put them on Amazon. But Amazon's another option. You can, depending on the cart, I'm sure Clover's cart that he's talking about is a really powerful open source cart. I bet you it has Amazon plugins. My cart has Amazon plugins. Most of the major ones will have them. Or you can just go to Amazon directly. You can either sell just like on eBay on Amazon, where you have the product and you put the ad on Amazon, or you put the the item listing, I guess, on Amazon. And then whenever something gets ordered, just like the process they just described, you fulfill the order. Or with Amazon, which is different than eBay or some of the others, any of the others probably, you can take, let's say we're talking, you buy 50 things, or you buy 100 things, you take 50 of them, you send them to Amazon. You'll need to print a little barcode for them. So you'll go to the store and buy the same labels that you'd use to address a bunch of labels or a bunch of letters to someone, address labels, except that you'll print out a little barcode that in the process of creating your listing on Amazon, it'll say how many items, and you'll say 50, and it'll say, okay, here's 50 barcodes. You print them out, you stick them on there. Now you can pay Amazon to do that, but you can save money by doing that yourself. Or like I say, you can just take your 50 items, put them in a box, set up your listing on Amazon, and ship them. A couple of days later, they get them, they in-process them. If you have tasked them with putting the stickers on, they charge you for that. And then they have them in the Amazon warehouse on the Amazon store, on the Amazon system. Now, unlike eBay, it's a little different because people are definitely shopping on Amazon, but I think people are going to Amazon like they would be a mall. I think they go to eBay like they would a swap meet or a garage sale. They're browsing and looking around and trying to burn, or they got money burning a hole in their pocket with eBay, right? With Amazon, it's like, I came here to buy cat food and I'm going back to work. Maybe. I don't know. Amazon's huge. But anyway, I think that's your best options for just getting out there and getting reach out of your product too. And not just, well, I mean, I definitely agree with Clover. You got to have a website, period. And a PayPal button on your website is super easy and free. And done deal. You've got the person's contact info. There's nobody else involved except PayPal. like lowest amount of fees as possible. The disadvantage is you're just one website on the internet by yourself. So, you know, obviously you can do things to change that, but putting that same gizmo, patch, sticker, hat, shirt, whatever thing you create, putting that on an eBay or an Etsy or an Amazon isn't quite putting it out in the middle of nowhere. It's putting it on your shelf in their giant store. So it's not like everybody's running into Amazon to look at your product, but at least if they're in Amazon or Etsy or whatever.
All right.
You already have the patches made, so what about doing some sort of an Indiegogo project or a GoFundMe or some sort of a project where you give people a call to action and the patches that you already have are a perk? So instead of actually selling them as a commodity, you have them as a resource and you use them to develop your project. Unless you're trying to simply get paid back for the cost. I mean, that's definitely an issue sometimes.
I've got a limited amount, and I want to get more so that I can go into bigger projects and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I kind of just dropped in my lap, so I'm kind of trying to find my way as far as what would be the best course of action. But definitely, when you started this today with the Indiegogo thing, that does bring up a couple ideas too.
Ghost, you're a Marine. Why don't you go ahead and tell Patriot how to run his channel? How's he supposed? What's the best way that he could take care of his resource?
As far as what, though?
I don't know. It's your channel now.
All right. Just quit while you're ahead, bro.
You're done. Oh man,
I'm done.
I don't know. I posted a picture of it on Instagram, and Ghost didn't even look at it. I don't think so.
On Instagram, I didn't see it.
Yeah, I even tagged him in there as being the designer of the original artwork.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw that.
Well, here's the thing about the Instagram. So, number one, tagging somebody is better than not tagging them. But if you don't tag somebody and you just post, you don't have any knowledge that they're ever going to see that, right? Instagram feeds us, depending on its thing, whatever it feels like, pretty much. So, even when you tag somebody, what I find, like I've got, let's say I post 4 pictures and I burst them. So I'll put 4 or 5 up, let's say, and there's, you never know. For some reason, one gets a bunch of likes or people chatting on it or something. You only get 100. I think it's 100 in that heart thing when you look at Instagram. So if you post something like, hey, look at this, and then 100 people are over here blabbing about something, I never see even though you poked it at me, you plugged, you tagged me or whatever, it'll just get killed in the feed. So depending on how many people are watching. And now they changed it up. I don't know if you guys like this new thing, but let's say that Clover makes a post and he includes me in the post somehow, like he tags me, and then Ghost goes over and makes a comment on Clover's post. I get that comment in my feed now. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it just says that. I get those things as far as commented on a post you're tagged in.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, thanks. Now 25 people say something about this post about Swiss cheese, and even worse when somebody posts on a giant channel, like here's some robot, or here's a funny thing, or here's a thing or whatever, pancake, and then boom, here's a channel with 1 billion views, a zillion people are tagging this thing. Good luck. Like I'll go look at my Instagram and it's like all some, here's some different kind of syrup on pancakes chat, and all I get is, the people responding to stuff. So I think Instagram killed it. They probably did a good thing for people that are not getting a lot of comments, right? Or aren't tagged like that. But I think they're going to end up changing that because it's just filling the thing with stuff that ain't yours. And because of that, you can't see like literally the people that are tagging or trying to contact you and stuff. Have you guys noticed that?
I saw it. I mean, when it's on my page, I figure it's just increasing traffic, and I try to make a comment no matter what. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And when it's on someone else's, if it's something big, I know no one's gonna read it. You know what I mean? If it's like 13,000 responses, but sometimes I try to throw something in, and hopefully it just redirects some traffic, or I get a new follower. You know what I mean? I try to use everything on social. If they're bothering me, I'm going to try to use it to my advantage.
That's a good point. That's a good strategy too.
Yeah, I usually try to tag in the description, because with me, it'll show the image where you tag it, and you're supposed to touch somewhere on the picture. With me, with using voiceover, it tags it in the exact center of the screen. So if I tag 4 people in the image, it'll have it all stacked up right in the middle of the screen, and then people go, "Hey, you're covered up your image." So I don't know if that's changed. That was when I first started. I throw.
You can drag those names and stack them on top of each other in a corner.
Yeah, I use the voiceover, and it just automatically puts it in the middle. And since I can't see, I'm blind. I can't see where to drag it, because I don't actually have the image on my phone. It's just, I mean,
Okay.
it's obviously there, but I can't see where they dropped it. So I just end up adding at the end of the description. I'll put the list of unfortunate souls that I tag in it. So they're just all listed at the bottom.
Now, back when I was, I don't know, this was 4 years ago, whenever I started paying attention to Instagram, and Marco and Concealed Nation were kicking it and really exploding in size and everything, and figuring out how the Instagram worked and all that. One of the ways you can, one of the tools, one of the systems on Instagram is to tag the giant reposters in your picture. Now, you can't just do that all the time. You'll piss them off, and they're human beings. They know what, they get offended, and they understand people that are just bugging them and stuff. But if you've got, like, let's say if I have one of those pictures where I've got like the Smith & Wesson ammo with like some kind of fancy revolver, and it's a nice picture or whatever, I'll tag maybe Smith & Wesson Fanatics, or somebody that just does a feed that's just all reposts of one brand, or one of the giant ones like Marco, or one of the 400,000 million channels. They get a lot of people posting to them, but you never know what their mood is or what they feel is necessary. They have a different feeling of the pulse of Instagram when you're a giant reposter. So if you're creating Lego blocks, and they're playing their game over there with Lego blocks, so the more often you give them the opportunity, the more chance you got to get in their feeds. And when you get in a feed with Marco 400,000 or something level, a typical small number of hits is 7,000 or 3,000 or something, I think. So you can get residual views and subscribers and stuff. So definitely one of the strategies on Instagram is, whenever you get a decent picture and you want to share it, to tag the big channels, right? Now, that general concept, of course, has all kinds of nuance. And again, from chatting with these guys who still are big channels, and additionally willing to share with everybody, their insights and their knowledge or whatever, their experiences. If you, so let's say, tag 3 big channels, you might as well have not tagged any of them, because they know that. They look at it, and they're not interested in reposting something that is promoting their competitors, so to speak, or another giant reposting channel. So there's some nuance to that. So I guess what you started with putting all those tags on top of each other, people hate that. When they are actually in the business of reposting, they want to see their tag over here by itself, and ideally the only tag to a big channel. Like, so you can tag to yourself, and you can tag to your project, and you can tag to something funny, but you start tagging to 3 or 4 big channels, you're just going to kind of potentially get in their shit list, and then you're wasting your time. Now you're just promoting giant channels. And I don't know, Clover, what do you think? Have you done any looking into the logarithm? If you're spamming a bunch of tags on Instagram that are completely generic, like #gun, that's usually bad in a logarithm. Usually logarithms are are immediately discounting anybody who's doing the baby gaming. What do you think? Have you looked at that?
I think he stepped out for a minute.
Oh, okay. I did not know that because a lot of times I tag things like just firearms, and then I tag the podcast I'm on, the Firearms Radio Network, that kind of thing, because that's what I'm part of. But yeah, I do throw out like Second Amendment, civil rights, firearms, fun, family safety. So you telling me I'm wasting my time with that? Because if so, I can save myself some time in the mornings at 4 a.m. when I'm posting.
Well, like I said, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I got to unplug my mouse back in. I don't know what these guys think, but in my experience, I don't know what you gain from those. And like I say, I suspect. I don't know because I've never seen anything. I just suspect that their logarithms are pretty sophisticated, and their goal is to have a user experience for everybody. So I would suspect that that's the kind of stuff that when you use anything too often, right, that's not good. And I do that intentionally. I know I break some rules because I'm going to put gun channels on everything. But if I was truly just looking for growth, each post should have its own tags. That's just, I would think, 101. I don't know where Clover's at. Ghost, have you looked into that at all? Patriot, anybody else out there?
And so what now?
The idea, the concept of on Instagram specifically, and with tags in a post, so hashtags in a post, the concept of hashtagging just super generic stuff, guns, shooting.
I very rarely will try to tag generic ones, like guns or whatever.
But hold
I'll
on,
do something.
do you think that they're intentionally against that, or just you don't like it? Because I guess we're theorizing on if the logarithms persecute you for that, or do you just do it out of?
I don't think they persecute you only because if people follow a hashtag, then anything that shows up under that hashtag will show up on their feed. So I don't think they're going to sequester photos if you use a hashtag. I just think that it's not going to maybe help you a whole lot, except for if people happen to be following that hashtag. Unfortunately, if you've got a hashtag like guns and there's 1,000 posts per hour with that hashtag, then yours is probably going to get lost in people's feeds.
Yeah, I think that if it's not detailed, it's kind of, if they just, there's way too many of them going on at a time. Yeah, I mean, I always throw in, the Daily Gun Show just because I'm, a hack or whatever, but everything else is just dependent on whatever I take a picture of, or whatever whatever the image or video clip is. So I try to make it all like that, but see, my problem is I put I guess tags. Which one is where you put a person with the @ symbol? Is that considered a tag? Like tagging Ghost in a thing is not the hashtag. I do @Ghost Tactical.
Yeah, tagging a person, that's a tag, yes.
To make it confusing, it's all called tags. So
Okay.
the thing with the @ sign is tagging in the image, where the other, I guess, is just a hashtag or tagging the description. But both, I guess, I would think are considered to tag someone either way.
Yeah. Yeah, I see, because I don't do anything in the image. Everything I do is in the description, and I'll write out, the people. But all, I do all the super huge people like Ghost and Clover and G-Web. So.
Well, see,
I
that's your
just
biggest
annoy the hell
problem
out
right
of
there.
them anyway. So that's probably why I'm. Yeah, but I didn't know about the, looking out for, the big reposters and stuff. Because obviously, if you start typing in the description, it pulls up that quick list at the top of, whoever is obviously the biggest one or the people that you actually follow or something. So I've never even paid attention to reposters, because normally I don't go through like the main feed and stuff, just because there's a lot of extra stuff in there. but I'm odd anyway, so I'm not looking at the pretty pictures.
We got 3 Marines in here, right?
Yeah.
So, what years? It's Ghost, Patriot, and then Tony? Or is it
What's
Patriot?
that?
What years?
I went in 93.
What years do you enlist?
88 to 93.
Oh shit, you're old like me. Patriot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patriot when?
93.
And then Ghost is when?
94.
Okay, so you guys are all early 90s in the Marine Corps. There's video games, and then shit, was there even, I mean, I guess there was technically internet, but I don't know if you guys were probably not playing with internet in Marine Boot or nothing. In the early 90s, as a Marine, try to put yourself back there. What would you have said 2019 was all about? As a Marine, I'm asking you guys because I got 3 Marines in here. I know it's a weird question, but what the hell?
I actually had a guy that was a roommate, a buddy of mine, that actually got his contract bought out so that he could go back and do programming and stuff. So he actually did some, I don't know, some magic stuff in some boxes he had stashed around. But at that time, I didn't know any of it.
Oh, what do you mean by what would I think in 2019? Because I was a computer programmer in the Marine Corps.
Oh, really? No, that would be super insight then. Yeah. So what were you thinking? And I mean, I guess I in case if you happen to have at some point really thought about this specifically, but if you can put yourself back to those times, what would you have thought about what 2019 had to?
It was really funny because the technology we used in the air wing, computer technology advances very quickly. We still had to record stuff for data, for storage. We use reel-to-reel.
Wow.
You still put the tape on the little machine and ran it through and then spun it, and you put your information on magnetic tape. And I think the new floppy was like a 5-inch floppy or 5.5-inch, something like that. It wasn't the big 8-inch from the Tandy Radio Shacks that I used in high school, but it wasn't a 3.5-inch either. So I knew the stuff we were using was antiquated because it had to be. It had to be integrated into the entire fleet all over the world, including reserve units all over the world. You know what I mean? So what did I think? I thought, because we use local area network, we use landlines, I figured that fiber optic thing would either be all around the world or it would had to be faster, being able to communicate from point A to point B. And I knew the storage was going to shrink because, again, I was using floppies and magnetic reel-to-reel at the same time. But I'd never thought it would be so small that all that information could be put on your cell phone. Like when I got out in 93, they started modernizing, and jobs it took 5 hours for me to do, we're getting done in 45 minutes. So working night shift, working from midnight or 11 o'clock until 7 in the morning, I would work for like 4 or 5 straight hours using the old technology. And by the time it became modernized, when I got out, it was all my work was done in an hour.
Yeah, there are aspects of my job that are obsolete these days. On top of that, what we did, sometimes it took a week or two for it to see the benefit of it as far as gathering intel and reconnaissance, which is now live. I mean, they can literally take a picture now somewhere and, SOCOM HQ can see it in real time. I mean, plus we have drones and all that. So, I mean, I think there's even, I would say a lot of what I did might even be obsolete these days.
Yeah, when you're talking like cameras even in the 90s, back then you'd have to take a camera, even a digital camera, and go fly it or do something with it. And then, like you say, like get the stuff out of it because there was no Wi-Fi, there was no uploads, right? You had to get the thing out of it and then process it and then somehow, ship it across the world. I mean, I don't know how that kind of stuff got done. It would have probably taken forever to move images, though.
Well, imagine without internet also. It's
That's
not
what
like
I
you
mean.
could just throw it on a flash drive. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I
that's
know.
why I say it would take a week or two sometimes, you know?
I remember doing reports on screens that had maybe 3 colors.
Yep.
So I mean, 3 colors. It was, and that was pretty high tech.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
I don't know if it was like Win32 or what it was, but it seemed like, I mean, looking back at it now, just knowing what we use, I mean, it was like banging rocks together.
I'll tell you what was, and this is going to sound sad, but doing reports, going from a dot matrix printer to a laser jet, or even not even a laser jet, but even like a normal desk jet was huge, you know?
Now, what we did, because we put out reports for the air wing, so it was all supply stuff. It had to be fast. So we had some of the fastest printers out there, and that crap would just get dwarfed today. I mean, because you'd pull it up on your phone or you pull it up on your laptop and you wouldn't need it printed out at all. Or the individuals would print out the reports they needed. They wouldn't need to come to us because now a laser jet will put it all out. You put it in a clipboard, you walk through the warehouse.
With the track feed printers.
Oh yeah, with the holes in the side of the paper that you had to line up. Yeah, lots of fun there, especially when you're on a 4-day. You're working 4 days in a row alone, and you don't put the paper in straight, and it all prints for like half an hour sideways. Yeah.
I'll tell you what's completely, probably revolutionized small arms units is the communication technology. Instead of we call them prick 77s, but I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. I mean, instead of using those, now they have headsets that are, they can talk through via satellite to HQ, like in real time. They've got drone above you to kind of see where you're going. Back then, it was you were hoping to find a signal somewhere, and there was no communication between except for nonverbal communication or verbal. There were no radios, at least when I was in, that were, at least somewhat reliable at all.
Yeah, that was fun operating with Prick 77. Hey, bend the antenna in half. Yeah, like they won't know how to radio.
Exactly, right?
I'm the dude standing beside the guy keeps pointing at shit. Yeah, I know. They're going to shoot me, and then they're going to shoot the dude pointing at shit.
It's not like you're putting a target up saying, hey, I'm the one talking to someone. Shoot me first,
Yeah. It's like me, then the machine gunner, and then the lieutenant, or me, the lieutenant, and the machine gunner. But it's always me. So when I became a computer programmer, our alternate MOS was door gunner in a helicopter. So they told us if, things go down and we don't use your MOS anymore, you can't use computers, airbase gets blown the hell up, and we need you for something, you get stuck in a helicopter and your life expectancy is 3 to 5 seconds.
Wow, that's interesting. I remember seeing when we were in processing, they would do this Army. But in processing, they would give us they'd sit us in an auditorium, like when they're doing haircuts or something, where doing one thing at a time, and everybody else got to wait. And they'd let us watch these movies, and one of them that just I can remember still was they were doing this whole thing about Apaches and the A-10s. They could, I think it was Apaches or Cobras, I guess, and A-10s back then, and the Cobra would pop up with that little golf ball on its head and do whatever it did to paint the battlefield, and then the Warthogs would come in and just take out everything. And they're like, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, the Soviets can do this too. The average lifespan of a tank driver is 30 seconds after we declare war. And I'm like, yikes. They pretty much, back in the Cold War, I don't think people would realize, it was all planned out. As soon as someone said do it, people just died minutes later. And then it was probably horrible after that.
Well, because of that stupidity, Gulf War happened. I was in during the first Gulf War. Gulf War got kicked off, and we had no idea how many casualties we're going to get or how bad it was going to be. So they assumed it was going to get bad. Well, at the time, I was picking up communications from the radio center, taking it to, delivering radio messages. And my job was on the list of people to get sent back to 29 Palms and retrained in infantry.
Ooh, the stumps. Yeah, the stumps were nice.
I'm like, nope, I'm not going to the stumps. So I volunteered for nuclear, biological, and chemical training to be done on base while I was still in Japan. I figured, I'll be a MOP level 4. I'll be working in vans. I know what's going on. You know what I mean? I won't be ignorant. Man,
How'd that
10
work out
minutes,
for you?
about 15 minutes into it, I was like, wow, this is the worst mistake I've ever made in my life. I was like, so this is what nerve gas does to you. This is what chemical, I want to go back to my computer,
Yeah,
but it is what it is.
that was some scary shit. Just seeing the videos of what gases do to people. Like,
Yeah.
thanks for the gas mask, but what for? Like, yeah, it just melted through that shit happened.
Yeah, that was one of those apocalypse things that you kind of go, maybe I just don't want to live through this.
This is completely off topic, but I just want to say this. Oh, okay. He's telling me to stop, huh? That was perfect timing. If you guys have HBO or access to some of the HBO stuff, if you guys are interested, there was a great 5-part series called Chernobyl that just ended a week or so ago that was absolutely phenomenal. If you guys want to see what, nuclear, I don't know what we call that, I guess a disaster would be like, it's a really, really good thing. It's called Chernobyl.
Hey, Jeff's out there. If you'd like a link, I'll email you. I just got a bunch of cool cards from Jeff from Firearms Coalition that are better than your typical, here's why I'm not just going to frequent your establishment because you're no gun sign. Really interesting. Really cool cards. So I don't know if I sent Jeff a link or not, but I see him out on the YouTube side there. But he's saying, you kids these days remember the miracle of the first 30 meg self-booting hard drive. I guess he's older than this. I guess he can remember different computer stuff. I don't remember the days of having to go build your own computer, period. I was alive during that, and my dad did that, but I can only remember like Mac Apple IIs, whatever, the Sinclairs and the Compacts and, the actual...
My first was the Commodore 64 because I remember we had it hooked up to a little black and white TV, and that's how we used the Commodore 64.
Darn rich kids. No,
Yeah.
I had a Tandy Radio Shack TRS-80 that I could only use at school. It was like 2 colors. It was orange. You typed in orange, and pretty much it was BASIC. It was in BASIC. So that's the first program language I learned to write in, which is what everybody at that time learned to write in.
I remember my dad, his company gave him, at the time, we thought, it was big time. It was a Compaq, and it was a portable computer. It wasn't a laptop. It was a portable computer, and it basically folded up into like a big white box, but that was awesome.
Yeah, lovable.
It should say.
I have 2 of them still. That was one. I want to stick a... Oh, Patriots saying something. Saying something? I want to stick a Raspberry in one eventually. Turn it back into a computer.
Yeah, after I got out, I did some program. I did some stuff in Mexico where they had some fiber optic modems and stuff, and they were using the old Apple Macintosh. And it took me like 2 months to track down a monitor for it because it was, it's trash. But yeah, one of the compacts that we had was about 8 inches thick, and it was huge, and it had like a, 5 or 6 inch screen, and it was like a brown background with orange monochrome. Sorry.
There's probably a joke in there about Mexican fiber optic.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
I don't know what it is.
You're telling me that they've got it before Clover can get it? What's up with that?
No, optic. It was an optic one, not fiber. It was, an optic modem. So it did light with a little plastic line that if you kinked it, it was, between the Macintosh. Oh, it was garbage. It was old. And this is back in...
Oh, I don't know. That was cutting edge, dude. But I know exactly what you're talking about, the Mac networking. But that was so ahead of its time.
Yeah, but it was down in Tulsa. Monterrey, Nuevo Leon, or something, Mexico. Canada.
Yeah, Jeff, show me again. Thanks for joining.
Hey, glad to be here. I just finished a class this morning or most of the day, and stopped in to take care of some things and saw your email and thought I would pop in and say hi.
Right on. And I want to thank again the moment to thank you for those cards. So I've been doing this thing with the channel on the big channel on Mondays, opening stuff up, and you sent me some. I want to call them customer
I call them
dissatisfaction cards.
merchant education cards.
And then, so we've seen the ones. I guess I could go grab it. Do you have a picture of them on a website somewhere?
I do.
But they're more colorful than your typical, like a lot of times they're like, even AZCDL has like a sort of a black and white, it's kind of a card, and you're going to look at it, you're going to go, okay, and it's usually got like something like a green circle around a gun, or something about their no gun sign, where yours is more, gives them something to look at. It's a little more colorful, and then immediately talks about stuff like, we're vetted by the FBI.
Yeah, my sister designed those, and we call them our merchant education cards. And it's just firearmscoalition.org/ or firearmscoalition.org/ $S = merchant. No, that was just the search. So I don't know. It's on there. If you go on my website and search just the word merchant, it'll come up with it. MERCHED for some reason. .org/merched. I guess it's merch ed. But yeah, there's the image of it. If you want to take a look.
Merch
ed. MERCA. No, you got an X in there.
Okay, we were talking about stores because we just did the patch batch where we did a bunch of patches, and both Tony and Ghost and Clover had patches in there, and Patriot had done some of his own, and was asking like the best way to get them out there for sale or whatever. We were talking about carts and stuff, so it looks like you're using a PayPal button. So basically, you do up your markup, your HTML, whatever you want to say, your blog post. Gives the information about it, some images and stuff, and then you set up an account with PayPal. They give you a little piece of code to include in your blog post, and then when I click on this, it just takes me to my PayPal, and no muss, no fuss. You don't have to worry about setting up a card or having a relationship with anybody other than PayPal. Has it been working for you okay?
It has. We've tried several other options. I'm looking at an outfit called Anodot right now. I just looking for PayPal is not my favorite place. So if I can find a better way to do it, I am very open to it. We were even taking Bitcoin for a while.
Well, it's worth it, right? I mean, heck, if somebody would have gave you Bitcoin 10 years ago, it'd be funding projects today.
Yeah. Yeah, and who knows? My brother might be planning to retire on that because he managed all of that. If somebody donated Bitcoin to us, he would be the only one who would have known it. So
we never got anything. We only got 100 Bitcoin, so we never really got anything on that deal. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So this is the card. Says I'm FBI certified. This is blue card, yellow. Font you can read pretty easily. You got the FBI thing there, but not in a way that makes it look official, but to show you're referencing the FBI. My concealed carry permit proves I've had 3 bullet points: a full background check, no mental impairments, and no domestic violence, felony, or drug convictions. And then back to yellow, it says, do you know this much about your other patrons or employees? And then it says Armed Citizen Saves Lives, and it's got the URL for Firearms Coalition who provided the card. But again, I think that's something that's going to catch somebody's eye, and they're going to see the FBI thing. And I like how it has even your other patrons or employees, makes them think a little bit. You flip it over, and both sides are full color and glossy, so that it doesn't look like you're just giving somebody a piece of paper you clipped out or anything. I don't know if that's necessary, but it's certainly effective. You know, it seems like you're giving them something that you put some effort into, right? That you went to some trouble to have created. So I think that probably has something to do with the impression it offers. But on the backside, it says criminals prefer defenseless victims. It's got a no gun sign over the no gun sign, which says false sense of security zone. Which is that something that you guys are? I'm asking a question if that's a separate project or something. But then just to describe it, figure the rest of the card here, it says prohibiting self-defense without securing your zone is negligence. So instead of just complaining, you're giving them something to think about. You may be criminally liable for the safety of patrons and employees. And it says in a little banner with some orange letters, criminal won't obey your no gun sign. It says, I will, your competitors, thank you. That says so much, so succinctly, so efficiently. So thanks again, but then let me ask quickly, does this false sense of security zone, is that a campaign or was that just something you did for this card?
We've come up with several campaigns like that we've thought about and looked at and launched here and there, but it's nothing that we're actively doing right now. And this, I mean, you see the copyright bug on it is 2008, and we got a whale of a deal on these full color coded cards, and my sister designed them up, and we've been doing them since back then. If I sent you a couple hundred of them, my preference is when you give away at least 2 at a time, so that
so they've got some to hand out and not feel like, oh, I've only got the one.
Yeah, I've only got the one. I want to keep it in my pocket. But it is, I think, fairly effective. And what I'll usually do is walk in and say, by the way, I noticed the sign on your door. Who's the manager here or the owner? Would you please be sure that they get it? If they don't bring them forward, I just leave it and say, please be sure that they get this. I'm going to go down the street to the other Mexican restaurant. Like there's not a whole lot of choice for Mexican restaurants in Arizona. So I drop them at Macayo every chance I drive by one. But
I don't know if you've heard the story, but yeah, I was sitting in me and Charles Heller went to a Mexican restaurant here in Tucson, saw the sign, sat down and ate, to eat, and then Charles asked for the manager. The manager came over, and he said, "Hey, I saw that sign in the door," or basically what you just said, and then handed him the AZCDL version of this card, and trying to talk and type at the same time, it's not working. And the guy said, "Oh, you know what? That's corporate policy. I don't even know why that's there." He literally walked over in front of us, took the sign, put it away, and then thanked Charles for letting him know that it was there.
We used to, when I was in Virginia, the VCDL group, we would have our meeting, and we would typically adjourn, and a bunch of us go down to Fuddruckers, and I've often wanted something like that, like Cactus Match here every Thursday night up at Ben Avery. I want to get a whole pile of guys and pick a restaurant each week, and every week as they're leaving Cactus Match, go walking into one of these restaurants that's posted, and once everybody gets there, somebody looks up and says, "Oh, wait a minute, guys, they're posted," and everybody just gets up and turns around and walks out, and somebody leaves the card. I would just love to do that just every week, just a whole pile of guys, and ideally have another restaurant in mind that we know isn't posted, and say, "Come on, Raul and Julia's down the street isn't posted," and I just think that would be fairly effective.
Yeah, seriously. And like you say, there's so many. We have the Marksman here in Tucson. It's an indoor range where they had matches. And I'm sure some of the people after the match, even if it's just 3 or 4 people, that's an effective nonviolent protest. And yeah, I mean, weaponize our wallets, right?
Right.
So,
Ideally,
for
you know,
10
after
bucks,
you get to
you
your
can
seat,
get let me plug these for you. For 10 bucks, I put the link out there finally. 10 bucks, you get 100 of these. So you're supporting Firearms Coalition and doing some boots on the ground.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted there. What were we saying?
Oh, not a problem. It's just, you know, if you wait until they seat you at the table and then then say, oh wait, we just saw this sign. Is this your policy? Oh, okay. Well, we got to go. Sorry. Um, and get up and walk out. Leave the card, and you know, say, let us know if you change your mind. We tried for a while. We started a database, and we had it on the card that invited people to let us know about gun friendly and gun unfriendly businesses. But with a national base like we have, that was it was just too labor intensive, and so we couldn't keep up with it. But I'd sure like to create some sort of a database like that. I know a couple of other people have tried to do it at various times, but a phone app. We did a phone app one time. We were working with some guys on a phone app, and I thought it was really going to take off, and then they kind of disappeared. So, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do, and something like this card can tie into a whole lot of it.
Right on. So I'm glad the subject went into this angle because this is what the media workshops are all about. And the project you're talking about, I know a project like you're talking about. I'm wondering if it's the same one. And it wasn't called Carry. It was something, and there was a simple word for it, and it was an app. And it's 2 phones ago for me, so it has been a while since I had that app. And like you say, it was such potential. It requires use, like it requires the cooperation of a bunch of people in order to make it useful. And that's one of those things. When it came out, we were a community, but we weren't a united community by any means, and we certainly weren't focused enough on awareness. And Carrie at the time, if I'm trying to remember when I'm thinking of this, we were at something like 6 states or something, right? We weren't like we are now at 16 with some momentum, where I think now that, well, it would always been a great potential, nice tool to have, but I think now you've got maybe more potential for some awareness of it and get some actual participation with it. But the thing is about apps, just from my experience, I'm no coder at all. I've thought about attempting to try to get into that because it is similar to the kind of coding I'm used to, but it's not. And the internet changes constantly, and apps need to work on the moving internet's foundation, and that's something that takes a certain amount of effort, and that's not something that everyone has the ability to gain. I mean, unless you do that for a living. So that means you have to pay somebody who has that knowledge, and that can add up pretty quickly. And but I think, again, we're talking about crowdfunding, we're talking about projects of value, and talking about uniting community and sharing resources. We were chatting a bit earlier about what kind of graphic or image software we use. I'll ask you what software you use in a second. But you know, maybe there's some way with some of the app coders out there. There must be people that are employed in that industry, right, that have knowledge and insight. And even if they can't take the time, maybe they can instruct some of us who have the time or could make the time, and we could get some of these apps built. On the other hand, I'm interested in your guys' opinion of this, because at some point you can't become successful by doing everything ourselves, right? At some point, there's a time to buy an established program or something. For example, the newsletters that talk to the Congress people, it would have been foolish of the gun industry to try to create a new mousetrap, right? There's existing things in place for lobbying organizations and stuff, and it's more effective for an organization at a state level to purchase one of those or subscribe to one of those systems, right, than to try to build a better mousetrap. But for something like this, our options are like Google, whatever, Google like reviews, or Yelp or something like this would be, I think, worthy of having its own presence on the internet, a community-based app or used app or something that, you know, focuses on our plight as opposed to what the quality of the food is, or if the waitress was pleasant to you that day.
Right. Yeah. was kind of like Waze that, you know, the other guy tells you that there's a cop around the corner. Um, that was kind of the concept for it, and I think that there's a place for it. And if if those guys would get busy again, I think it would be useful. As far as editing software, um, I have traditionally always used the free stuff. Currently, Paint.net is the one that I tend to use most, but um, I recently came into Adobe Photoshop and have been trying to get better with it and its capabilities. Um, so, yeah, I just sent you my favorite Photoshop job that I ever did.
An email?
Yeah, I just emailed it over to you. But yeah, there's so many things that you can do with the software these days, and I don't know. I would love to have the time to sit around and be a meme genius and just make memes, but uh, it just takes too much time.
Well, and again, unless it's, I mean, I think again we're talking about shared resource distribution of efforts, right? There's a certain amount of things that we can get together. Is this unprecedented? Your dad, when he was efforting to do things pre-internet with the phone, so you mentioned, we've talked about the phone dialers and the newsletters, and I mean, he didn't come up with that out of thin air. He must have collaborated with others that have used it, or used those techniques, or used
Yeah.
those tools that were available.
Well, actually, it was mostly him and Tanya Metaxa. Tanya was quite a computer whiz, and after they left NRA, they did a lot of stuff together, and she had the first computer bulletin board about guns called the Bulletin Board, and ran that for a number of years. And so she would see some technology and she would tell Dad about it, and if he thought it was cool, he would dive in. Our software that we used for managing our contributor database was written in DBase 2 by Dad, and his idea was to build it and then sell it to other, well, sell it and loan it and give it, depending on who the other organization was, for keeping up with your contributions and tracking your contributors and stuff.
What era is this? What years are we talking about now?
Talking 1984, 85.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is using a computer as what we have now is like a spreadsheet, or, like just data.
Right. His was a complete contribution and membership management program that it turns out that for most people, just doing it with the spreadsheet is where they end up going. But he was taking it, automating it several steps beyond that, to where his thing was that the person who was actually doing it didn't need to understand any of the technology. They just had a user interface that they fill out the form, and the system would automatically know if we've already got that guy, how much he's contributed in the past. It would keep track of it.
Effectively, what Access did years later, in order to create an interface that would allow you to, like I was doing with that form a minute ago, input data, so that the person doesn't have to be a data input specialist. They can just walk up to a computer and answer some questions, and then it does all that
right
for you.
Yeah. He it was kind of interesting, and it was one of those things that Dad did because he was a gadget guy. And that's one of the things about gun guys so often is that gun guys are gadget guys, and that's why you see so many gun guys who are pilots and who are wrench benders and into photography, dentists. You get lots of dentists that are gun guys because they're gadget guys. And Dad was one of those. He was a gadget guy, as am I, and most of our gun guys. We enjoy the gadgetry. So
All right. Well, I think we're getting up on the top of an hour again, and I'm going to jump over and see what people are saying in the live chats. We haven't heard from Over in a bit. Still here? Yeah, he's just phoning it in. Ghost, anything we brought up that we missed or?
No, I think it's been a great show. I loved it. I mean, it's covered so many different things from patches to I mean, it's just great chat. Thanks for letting me be on.
Yeah, well, I'm not ending it, but I'm just trying to play host a little bit, and that's, I mean, a workshop isn't necessarily like here's a seminar, right? And it's not here's a tutorial. So I guess it's exactly what I'm trying to do here is to get people working together, get people creative. We've got 14 people watching, so I see Rupan out there asking, was anyone afraid during Y2K? I wasn't afraid, but I was concerned. I was in AOL at the time, and there were people AOL was an interesting place. I was working with millionaires, literally, people that had gone through 2 or 3 stock splits and were just normal people a couple of years ago, and now are millionaires. And then at the same time working with people who were probably, some of the people you think of like Silicon Valley types, people that were whiz bangs and could see the future and knew where things were going and were part of it. And there were people that had the facility, the wherewithal to leave, and they left the grid. They took off, took their money, went to places in preparation of that. Certainly everyone was prepping for it. The concern in hindsight, it's easy to mock it, but I think there was, at least in my realm or whatever, having some insight to the tech industry, there was definitely some concern that just automated stuff, trains and electric things, that there could be some hardwired stuff in old Cobalt or whatever, languages that potentially couldn't deal with the flip, that would shut down infrastructures. We were all alive back then. What do you guys think about Y2K?
I really thought it was all BS. I really did, because what happened on New Year's when it was coming, I purchased my normal groceries like normal. A lot of people, because this is Jersey, they go to the city, go to New York City. I went to South Jersey and hung out with friends that I knew were like-minded. Like, I'm not really worried about this, but, she had kids, they had groceries, you just load it up. And it was my boy and her and the family and like 5 friends, or 6 friends, just chilling, watching the new year come in, figuring nothing's really going to happen. And if it does, we're still good for like at least 2 or 3 weeks. You know what I mean? It's like, if everything's going to be chaos, how are you going to prepare for total chaos? And we just waited it out.
I was running a radio station in Spokane, Washington at the time, and I spent that night, or most of it, at the radio station, just making sure that everything continued on as it was supposed to. And when the clock turned over, it was interesting to watch and make sure that my all of my software that automated the station continued to work.
Like, if you can remember back then, how much concern was there? I mean, were you like, I got to be here, or was it like, wow, were you prepped at home? And
I had about 3 cases of paste picante sauce, and some canned Spam. So yeah, I was good to go. But being an AM radio station, we had all of the really worried prepper guys on a pretty regular basis, and they could wind you up a little bit. And so, yeah, there was some concern. I wasn't deeply concerned, but the potential I felt was there for some problems to come about. And so just took a few precautions, but didn't get crazy about it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just remember not being overly worried. I figured there were a lot of people in this world that were a hell of a lot smarter than me that had years to deal with this, that they would figure out a way. So I guess I just had faith in the system.
Well,
There
I think
was-
there's value to that because, like you say, everybody's goal was to not have it turn to chaos. I mean, nobody was interested in like setting back and finding out, and nobody was interested in making it happen, right? So pretty much everybody spent a lot of time to make sure that nothing would happen, right?
Well, and there was the other side of it. What was it? Mozart's birthday or something, that a virus that had gone around a couple of years before. And so that was one of the additional concerns, was that the black hats might plant some time bombs for Y2K. And of course, some of us had just gone through not long before the wild experience of suddenly gas going over $1, and so all of the gas pumps were out of date, and people were pasting a $1 sign on the Post-it note at the front of their gas pumps, because they only did cents. They didn't do dollars back then.
Oh wow, I never even thought about that.
It was a big deal.
Nobody put $1 3-digit sign ever because gas didn't cost $1. And then when it did, yeah, that changed every digital sign, like those old whatever, like physical digital, whatever that thing's called, those old flip signs. Or yeah, I can't even think about that. But yeah, it wasn't the first time anybody experienced a big potential thing that would knock out the status quo or something.
Yeah, there had been a few little precursors, and it seems like there was one other thing that had happened, that a lot of the computers had a little bit of trouble with the conversion. And so when the idea of Y2K came around, it was like, oh wow, well, did anybody think about this ever? So it had the potential, but people were foresighted enough to have taken it into account and prepared for it. And I don't remember there being any real issues at all.
No, not really. And I don't even know if there would have been. Honestly, I think that it was a lot of potential concern, like that what might happen.
Yeah, I was more concerned about the hacker aspect, that somebody might have planted a virus. As soon as the Y2K scare kind of started, I think that there were a lot of hackers that were like, oh, I'm going to plant this. I forget what they call those, the delayed
Trojans.
virus thing, Trojans. But I don't know. It was, but yeah, we got the real crazies on the radio, who were insisting that you needed to, get a year's supply of food and move to the mountains, because everything was going to fall apart on Y2K.
I remember the biggest fear that my dad and some of all of those people that we're talking about were the banks.
Mm-hmm.
That the bank institutions, the financial institutions, the scare was that it could erase everything. So I think that was the biggest thing that I remember my dad talking about. Yeah.
And our radio station was a business news station. So that was our main function and focus was finance. And so that was the other side. On our late night programming, we had Jeff Rentz and those guys, and the infomercials about buying your preparedness book. And some of our daytime talk shows would also do that. But the But then we had Bloomberg News and we had the financial experts that were coming on and saying, no, we've got this under control. Everything's figured out. There's not going to be any problem. Please don't go take all of your money out of the bank, because that will create the problem that we're all trying not to have. So there was some tension.
Oh, let there happen. So, I think I can go back and look and see if anybody's chatting about anything that we've been talking about. Any reason why paste picante sauce? Did you say paste picante sauce or just picante?
Absolutely no, paste picante.
Oh, okay.
New York City. I'm sort of addicted to paste picante. It was my wife's big joke was to open the pantry and have it full of paste picante sauce and do some sort of commercial that, yeah, we're ready for Y2K, and open up that pantry and show all of the paste.
Tag this last piece here and then zoom out, and then I will not try to do every single detail of this thing tonight, but that I think gets you an idea of what we're looking for. I'm going to try to get some detail in there, and a little bit of this I'll have to go back and forth with the actual manufacturers and what I can screw with, but I'll try to get as many colors and as many layers to get some of the texture of the depressions of the stock and the places where it rises up on the grip there, the swell. Try to get some of the curvature and stuff. So we'll try to get as much detail as possible into this one. And like I said, there'll be 3 patches in the project altogether, but this one we'll try to put most of the, I guess, attention to, or most of the funding to. I'll kind of average it out with those others. But this was a 2A media workshop. This is a 2A media workshop. I guess we're going to be wrapping it up here, though. And this was an attempt to continue to have an open room like this where we can talk to 2A media. I've been doing some interviews to try to get the word out about people and the diversity and the types of activists that are out there, and the different angles that we approach this, and the different concerns that we have, and the reasons why we do it. And at the same time, talk about how we do these things, and encourage people that are out there to realize that we're in 2019, and in 2020 we're going to have a political, or another election cycle, and it's not that this is the last one or the most important one or the most critical one, but we do live in a time where we have abilities to influence our the people that are online with influence. I think I don't have to get into details about some of the crazy stuff that's happened on YouTube specifically just recently, and in the recent past with the effectiveness of comments and intent and directing concern, and with the NRA in a position where it is at a been a potential problem for a long time, but potentially culminating to some sort of a head. We can either have the best seats in the house, we can use the tools that we have to observe everything we're watching the best way possible, like we've never been able to do before. We can certainly use our skills and document all this and record it, which is probably important and necessary, but I don't think it's where we have to stop. And I've been watching cycles for a long time now, and I'm going to do my best to have rooms like this and to invite the people in who are active and interested, so that we can share resources and have these discussions so that we can move the ball, and hopefully have some influence on the 2020, so that we as a community, as a group of people who are interested in the individual freedoms and the liberty that the Second Amendment is the what am I trying to say? Like the Second Amendment provides, or symbolizes all that. Maybe the words I'm looking for. So we have this common goal that's a little bit more, I think, valid than red cars or what flavor of soup or something out that the communities get built up out there. So instead of just talking about how we can effectively watch what's going on, let's try to talk about how we can influence it. We've got the Gun Rights Policy Conference coming up in 90 days.
Wow.
90 days from today. 90 days is the Gun Rights Policy Conference. That's the time when a bunch of organizations are going to get together. Alan Gottlieb was 24 years old It was 1972 or 4, I forget off the top of my head. It was not too long after the gun owners, or wait, the 68 gun owners, GOA, 68, and he got pissed. He didn't like it, right? So he started an organization called the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, and then a couple of years later started the Second Amendment Foundation. 35 years ago, he started bringing the gun owners' rights organizations together, and once a year they have a conference, and they take the stage, they talk about what's been going on, what they're going to be doing, what they might need, what they have to offer. Groups of similar interest will take the stage, and it's an interesting time for 2 days. Off air or off stage, those groups are strategizing and having strategy sessions, I suppose, coordinating and networking. It's open to anyone who's interested in attending. It's free. It's one of the most awesome experiences I've ever experienced as far as a gun owner, and I've done a lot of neat things. I was a kid and I was in scouts, right? I was a kid and I went hunting with my parents and my dad. I was a kid and I became a instructor for little kids, and I was a scout, and I ran a range, the BB gun range for little Cub Scouts, and I thought that was cool. I got older and I went in the military, and Uncle Sam gave me a gun. That was pretty neat. After that, I figured out that I have a right to own guns, and I went back to owning guns. Then I figured out in Arizona I can carry. I started to carry, and that was pretty cool. And then I met up with Jaeger and the people at Front Sight and experienced training, and the level of training that's available to us, regular people as civilians that came down from the stuff that we paid for in the military and law enforcement is amazing, and that blew my mind. I got into sharing that with people on YouTube, and I was already an internet guy, so I experienced what it's like to share firearms related stuff and to see what it's like to have people from all over the country and all over the world share in that conversation, and that blew my mind. And then in 2010, after the urging of Charles Heller for years to go to the Gun Rights Policy Conference, it was finally easy for me. And to get Charles off my back, I went to Phoenix and I attended the Gun Rights Policy Conference. This is in 2010. I had been doing internet stuff since 1997, gun channels since 2004. So for 6 years, I've had my mind blown, and all those things I talked about for my entire life, I've had my mind blown. I didn't think there was anything to have my mind blown about until I went to the Gun Rights Policy Conference. There's no way to explain. I'm trying to use words to explain the experience of going into a room with other people who are driven to protect the Second Amendment and to enjoy the life that the Second Amendment provides, and not for the ability to sell you a new flavored scope or a different reticle on your grip, but instead to just have the liberty and the individual freedom that we all enjoy that lets us do all that other fun stuff. So going into that room was an experience that I cannot put into words. And since then, I've experienced it for 8 years. In the last 2 years, I've been going and attempting to become more of the Second Amendment media and the people I know throughout the years, trying to get my Rolodexes together so that the people I know can most effectively use their time. I'm not saying this is the last time we have the opportunity to do it. I'm not saying this is the first time we've ever had the opportunity to do it. I'm saying we have the opportunity to do it. So we've got 90 days. I'm going to continue to have workshops like this as often as possible for the next 90 days. I want to thank my Patreons who allow me to do this financially. I want to thank the people that buy stuff at our store that allows me to do this, take the time to do this. And I want to thank the people that participate, because I've definitely sat in these rooms by myself and I'll do it. But it's better when we have people participating. I'm going to keep the room open. I'm going to keep inviting 50 Second Amendment advocates that I know. I'm going to keep doing interviews whenever I can and inviting more people in. There's some projects that I'm not supposed to talk about because I've been told off air about them, but there's some amazing, spectacular things in the works. And what we need is not another Bloomberg. We don't need some of the big, fancy whoever's to tell us about stuff. What we need is individuals to act and to weaponize your wallets, to decide to use your money, your entertainment money, your extra money this year towards efforts like Tony. Every other month, Tony in New Jersey gets people together from all walks of life and experiences firearms for the first time. That kind of stuff. We need that kind of stuff happening in the next couple of years more than we've ever needed it. We have a better opportunity than we've ever had before. And I want to thank everybody for participating in this. We'll do as much as we can. So with that, I'm going to shut up. We've got Tony in here from 2A for E, the diversity shoot. I want you to tell everybody about your thing as we head out. We got Jeff from Firearms Coalition. Tell us about your thing before we head out. Ghost from Ghost Tactical, same thing. And Clover, if he ever comes back, tell us about your stuff. But Tony, Thanks for showing up. Tell us about Diversity Shoot.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Been busy taking notes. Diversity Shoot, get together in Jersey to get people, no matter what their background. What I did in 2015 was approach Gun for Hire Range and says, hey, could we do something to get African Americans more interested in the legislative part of gun ownership? And Anthony said, yeah, what about in a couple of days? I was like, give me a week. That week was the first Diversity Shoot in February 2015, and we've been growing it ever since. And of course, it was totally inclusive, but I guess I didn't say that. And I've learned how to try to include people more since then. So regardless of race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, or political background, we invite you out to these events. We have pizza, we have raffles, and we shoot guns. I bring in Second Amendment groups from around the state. The NRA ILA actually shows up and tells people what they do and introduce themselves to new shooters. I had 3 different Second Amendment projects at the Diversity Shoot this time. MySecond.org is a guy who's from New York. He'd lived in Jersey for 2 years, saw the ridiculous gun laws and wanted to do something about it, and started a film project recording regular people talk about what the Second Amendment means to them. He came up and introduced himself. I've done his video before, but he wants more people just of a diverse background to participate. And my job, I feel, is to introduce people, just facilitate those meetings, something like you're doing here, but I'm trying to do it in person with people from all over to grow the Second Amendment community by any means possible. And that's what we do. We have diversityshoot.com. We have GoFundMe's. We try to do everything to make money because I don't have a thing to sell. I'm just bringing people together in the community and trying to destroy stereotypes. So we have like raffles at the event. Pizza, everybody gets fed, you eat together, we tell jokes, and we just try to build a sense of camaraderie and fellowship. And it's been working pretty well.
I think that's awesome, Tony.
Seriously.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I mean, Tony, you're awesome. You jump in here all the time. I don't want to crap on it at all, but Tony's not the only one out there. You got to believe in a country of 360 million people. I mean, Tony's the only one doing it in New Jersey. He's only doing one like he's doing it, but there's other people out there. And if we can gather resources and get them to the level Tony's at, we're better off. But Tony is doing something that they're not. He's sharing it with everybody. He's taking that time to turn around and take a moment to share all that. It's beyond belief. Thank you, Tony, for that.
Thanks. And hopefully I see you guys at GRPC because I got invited. So hopefully I'll be speaking there.
I don't know. It's like 2 hours away. Boring. I don't know.
Yeah, come on down, everybody out to Phoenix in September. Let's do the GRPC. It's going to be a good time. And something that you said, Pete, that I think is really important. It's not just money; it's skills. Here we are in a workshop trying to sharpen our skills in various aspects of this stuff, and I try and learn this stuff, but I would love to have people that I could just say, hey, can you do something like this for me? And that it gets done. We're coming into an election cycle. There are candidates out there that need your help, whether it's doing Photoshop or doing digital communications, or knocking on doors, or making phone calls, or licking stamps. You have abilities, and letting people know that you're willing to dedicate those abilities to their cause makes a huge difference, So, I encourage people to, it's not just money, it's time, it's skills, it's abilities that are in demand and have great value within the community.
And doesn't that make us so much stronger? If everybody just threw $50 at something and we could pay some group in Pakistan to accomplish the goal for us, what have we accomplished? We've created another Mackerman or whatever the hell that company is, right? Instead, if we have a bunch of people that crowd effort, right? We become a political opponent that no politician wants to mess with, right?
Open source politics, that's what it's all about, is moving that, and that's one of the things that my organization, the Firearms Coalition, is trying to do more. We've been the hardcore, really dedicated guys, trying to get the message out and communicating behind the scenes with our guys, and it's time. We're trying to spread that out, and we'll be launching some new efforts here in the very near future to reach more people and try and build that cadre of activists who not only will answer the email, look at the email, but that they'll answer the call in the email. And when I say, hey, we need letters to this congressman or your senators, that they'll actually follow through and send those letters, send those email messages, make those phone calls. We don't need 500 people up on Waples Mill Road shuffling money. We need 5 million, 10 million, 50 million activists on the ground picking up their phone, their computer, and communicating with that politician and letting them know, giving them a strong sense that we can impact their ability to be elected. Whether it's for the positive or the negative, we can impact that critical key component of being a successful politician, the ability to be elected. If you can't be elected, you can't be a politician. And if you can't be a politician, you can't accomplish anything in politics. So, you know, we have that power if we can harness that power. And that just comes down to paying attention and acting when, find the people that you trust. And when those people say, hey, we need to act on this, follow through and take the action, because that's the way we change the world.
Well said. Patriot. Anything to wrap up?
Am I supposed to follow that? I am just a little guy. Okay?
Just do better.
I'm just a little guy. I'm blind. I do things. And if I can do it, anyone can. All I ask is that you focus on liberty. When you're talking to real people, focus on the liberty. Don't focus on firearms. Don't focus on shotguns or your little teeny niche. Focus on liberty, because liberty affects everyone. And if things happen, that's what we're here for. We're supposed to push this out, get it out to everybody that you know, talk to your neighbor, the people that you see every day. There's something that they do, that they deal with, that if somebody steps on liberty, it's stepping on them too. So they just have to know that. And if you focus it on liberty, then you'll have a lot more people going our way.
Amen, brother.
Ghost.
I feel awkward just being in this room with Tony and Jeff and everyone. But no, I think my biggest mission is, I've got several of them, but my biggest overall mission for my project is the idea of the armed citizen, whether it's, carrying every day, being more proficient, getting out to the range. I think that getting someone to the range for the first time is so much more important than having a debate on the Constitution. I think if people get to the range that are at least open to a discussion about firearms, and you create a safe, fun environment for their first time, and they pull that trigger, the exhilaration and the adrenaline rush will cap any argument you could possibly throw at them. Get them out to the range, create a safe environment for them, and let them understand that we're normal people that take our liberties and our defense of our families and friends very seriously. The second thing that I'm really on right now, and I have been on for a while, is getting a community together. And more importantly, I think people know that I do not financially support the NRA right now, but I am a huge supporter of the idea of the NRA. And I think that if we can all come together and say, look, everyone complains about the NRA. But what if we try to really work hard to change the NRA? And there's a great community out there. SaveThe2A.org is a great place to start. Had them on the podcast last Tuesday night. Check that chat out. But I ask everybody this. If you're out there howling at the moon saying the NRA is going to burn, if we're able to fix the NRA and make it exactly what we want, will they continue to bitch and moan about the NRA, or will they find something else? I challenge everyone to get involved. We cannot afford to let any of our gun rights organizations burn a year and a half before what could be a very crucial election for our community. So I urge everybody to get out there, do what you can, either financially or in the media or whatever, to help our organizations, including the NRA, feed itself, fix itself, and become stronger, because right now we are under attack and the 2020 elections are coming fast. Thanks for having me on, G.
You bet. Thanks for joining. Clover? He shows up at the end for the plugs.
Yeah, I did. It was horrible. Self-promotion and all that good stuff. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything about myself. Anybody that sees the screen should know and know where to find me. If not, Google it. I will say what we say all the time, which is kind of a follow up on what Ghost was saying about people with, their opinions, whether they may be the same or different. If you're out there, if you have those opinions, if you like to run around and spout those opinions, then fire up the camera, fire up the microphone, get on the social medias, become an advocate, become an activist, do more than just funnel money to some of these organizations. I know seemingly we've done very well, and I say we because there was a lot of people all involved donating and everything else to make it happen with the 1639 stuff, and that really renews my faith that there's a lot of good people out there. I think one of the issues is we've got a lot of people out there that they pay their pittance, they pay their dues, and then they just sit back and let other people do it. They take a back seat, and I think Jeff's even spoken on this before. It requires more a lot of times. I mean, once upon a time, yes, that may have worked, but I think we're in a day and age where we've got to get out there. We've got to let our voices get out there, and the more we have, the more it amplifies the cause. So thanks for these 2A meetings and stuff, G. I appreciate it. And for those out there that do turn on the cameras, turn on the microphones, man, come join these, get into these. There's a lot of good stuff from Tony, Ghost, Patriot, Jeff, and oh heck, everybody else. Who am I missing out there? Charlie and Logan and Argo and all the other ones that normally jump in these, and they're an inspiration to keep up the fight. Thanks, G.
You bet. And now for all the people that ducked out, they're going to miss this last part. So you thought I was ending the show, but I'm not. So what would be the ultimate accomplishment at gun rights policy this year? And I'm going to go backwards from, let's see, Patriot. I'm going to go to Tony, then Ghost, then Clover, then Jeff, because I think that'd be the interesting way to do it. So Patriot, what's the best we could hope to accomplish? And Smeggy's out there. There's 16 people stuck around till the end. I'm asking everybody. This is a conversation with us all, right? If you're listening in the future, you're playing with a time machine. But what could we possibly accomplish? What's the best?
The very
policy. All right, I'll shut up.
The very best thing that I could see watching just from afar last year's would be, you have the day before and possibly the day after the conference, as far as the media portion, actually incorporating something where you set up a game plan that first day and actually sit through and get some kind of, formulation with everyone else that's in the 2 main days, so that they're matched up instead of just sitting there talking about, the little projects and all that stuff, more of, an actual collaboration and a way forward. Because from what I seen of last year, there was a lot of small little tidbits, and it would be nice to have, go in there and say, okay, what can we do to help what the main body wants to do as far as the media portion?
Yeah, so you were listening when I rogue broadcasted, because they only put Jeff, you weren't at AmCon in Chicago, right?
No, not in Chicago.
But you went to the Dallas one. But they did it was similar. It was carbon copy. But anyway, they didn't broadcast it. They were not even recording it. So I just went rogue and broadcast it to Gun Channel's people from the back of the room. And Patriot was one of the people and listening live then. And you were one that came up with this strategic idea, I'm going to say, of putting the AmCon on both sides. Because actually, at the end of AmCon this year, they asked us, should we make this a 2-day event? And Patriot was like, heck yeah, do it. I think it was Patriot let's do it on Friday and on Sunday so that we can, like you just said, come together, have a call to action, and then send them out. So I thought that was neat. I've ran that past AmCon, and that's not their goal. And I have not run it past Second Amendment. But yeah, I think that was cool. That's why I'm glad I streamed it, because I think that I wouldn't have thought of using us as an arsenal, which I think is to sum it up. So what, Tony? What's the best thing we can accomplish from Gun Rights Policy?
A concerted list of 1 or 2 goals that everybody worked for. One of the problems I have is the NRA and the opportunities that are missed because they're not really concentrating on the Second Amendment and what everybody wants them to concentrate on. Bringing that pressure and spreading that message through the various medias to just make that a push from our side, not to destroy the NRA, but to make the NRA live up to its potential by being members of it, but forcing these guys out, that just aren't about actually growing the Second Amendment. I don't need to hear anything else. I don't want to hear anything else. I just want to hear how you're going to grow the Second Amendment and protect our rights and stop standing up for stuff that doesn't. And that would be awesome. Just all of us on the same page, beating it up for a year.
That's interesting. Jeff's going to have more insight than me, but NRA is not a topic usually at Gun Rights, so I'm not sure what they're going to do, but that's a valid position.
All right.
Ghost.
Then
go ahead.
Hold on real quick. The second thing, because I push this all the time, get people involved with their local Second Amendment groups, regardless of who they are. If you do a national one, great. It's awesome. But the fight is coming to the state level. And I talk about it, and sometimes people's like, oh my God, you're talking about that again. And I'm like, oh my God, you haven't joined your Second Amendment group in your state yet. So that's where I'm at with that. This is where the fight is. This is where the attacks are coming. And maybe we need to push that more.
At least awareness, right? Ghost.
I think that what I'm looking for out of it is obviously the people that are there are extremely in tune, or at least wish to be extremely in tune with the Second Amendment community. You don't make the trip to the GRPC unless you have that thirst. So what I would say is the thing that I'm looking the most out of is a game plan, a template, marching orders, not necessarily saying this is what we're going to do, but a collective effort to maximize the time, the 2 or 3 days that you're there, to talk about real issues and real things that could help the community, not individual. No offense, AmCon. I think AmCon has its place, but once you get done with AmCon, let's forget about the individual projects and understand it's a Second Amendment project, and figure out a way, especially this year, what can we do as a community moving forward that will help us either protect our rights or find candidates that we think will protect our rights in the 2020 election. And the people that are there, utilize them as the spokesperson of these meetings and say, here's what we talked about. Here are some great ideas, and let them help mobilize everyone that couldn't be there.
I kind of love that, because I don't think anyone, if you did voice that one specifically before, I didn't absorb it, but I don't think I've heard anybody. That's a neat one. I like that. And not that we go in there too much as projects, I don't think, but it's there. So that's a good one. Clover?
Well, I've never been to AmCon or GRPC yet, so I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know that my expectations are realistic or not. But I'm thinking of something really, really simple, and it sort of builds off what Ghost just said, is I would think the people that were willing to make the trip to GRPC, it is not as, doesn't seem anyway for me as I've, like I said, I've never been outside looking in. It doesn't seem as glamorous or glorious as a SHOT Show or an NRA or some type of a trade show. And we've got, sadly, we've got a lot of people in the space of creators, influencers, um, podcasters, whatever you want to call it, to a profile or media that are more bluster, more entertainment, more about their own little goals, keeping their brand secure. It's just really more about them than it is other people or the 2A, seemingly a lot of times. And so, in my mind, I'm thinking that those that are at GRPC. Obviously, you've got a lot of organizational people, I'm sure, and stuff like that there that are not that way. But the other people within, I guess, our sphere and our space that are there are a little more less ego driven and more let's get this done. Let's work together. Let's devise plans. Kind of like Ghost was saying, let's get these strategies nailed down. And more importantly, where I was going with this is the ability to make the contact, the ability to, actually swap phone numbers with somebody where, on a weekly basis or monthly basis, we don't even have to get into, a 2A thing here, which these are great. But, you can send a text message just real quickly to somebody and say, maybe they're in a neighboring state, or maybe you've heard of something that's going on in their state, and say, hey, you need help. You need me to cut a video. You need me to write a blog post. What do you need from me? Do you need something on a more of a personal, I guess, level? Because I'm a big fan of, I've talked about it a bunch of times. We talked about that bridge effect. I mean, everybody's got their own cliques, their own islands and whatnot. And you're not going to move as a group unless you can connect those somewhere. And I think it's those personal connections that bridge those gaps. It's not communicating with somebody through social media forms or even potentially emails or anything like that. It's the ability to on a regular basis have real conversations, and that's where this comes into play. But I think it can be I think this type of activity can be done on a smaller basis across the entire 2A community, many multiple times over on a daily basis. If we just can all get together, all drop egos, say, hey, we're all in this. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, or how big or small you are, what your economic status is, what your educational status is, what your geographical location is. We're in this together. Let's swap information. Let's keep each other up to date. I expect you to keep me up to date the same way you expect me to stay up to date. And I don't know, that networking, build a really robust, like almost grassroots level network out of GRPC, because there's a lot of us out here that are willing to do, but we have lives and families, and we're kind of doing our own thing and going our own way. And it's not that we don't want to help or we can't help or anything else, but
It's overwhelming to try to keep up on everything individually.
yeah. And I mean, I don't care how big of a channel you are or a big of an influencer or activist you are. Some of us don't know who you are, right? I mean, I know Jeff by name, and it's amazing to be sitting on a panel with him, but I don't know Jeff, and Jeff doesn't know me. So we need to get to that level. And then as tasks come up that need to be done, we always talk about what we all can bring to the table and the skill sets we have. And you were talking about that early on in the show, I think, before I dropped out. As we actually get to know each other a little bit, then something comes up, and one of us can advise somebody else we know, and that even broadens the network, that broadens the sphere. You can go, oh, hey, I know a guy that you need to get hooked up with. He can help you with that project or that collaboration or whatever you need to be done. He's really good at it. He's really knowledgeable about that. Here, hit this guy up, and that just broadens that sphere even more. And I think I think that's what's exciting to me about maybe trying to get that going a little better, get that rolling a little more at GRPC, because if we can ever solidify, and have this big strong network like that, where
When?
communication's going on and everybody's on the same page,
When we?
when we, then the as far as what we want to come out of it, man, the possibilities are infinite at that point. I mean, we blow through 2020, flip letters on the
Scoreboard.
whatever on the scoreboard, whatever it might be. Put new letters on the scoreboard, even that's a possibility.
New scoreboard, yeah, another digit on the scoreboard.
Right, exactly. Whole new scoreboard. Then coming out of 2020, I mean, heck, let's not stop there. I mean, if we've got everything rolling and everybody's together and we got the communication and we got that rhythm going, then heck, we start taking on, screw this, Trump don't like suppressors, right? I mean, we shove them off NFA down his throat, and then when we get them off the NRA, then we attack and get them off the NFA, then we attack the NFA, and then we attack 4473s, and we just systematically, the same way they've systematically done it to us, we systematically turn it around. But you've got to realize that they were on the same page, they knew everybody, and they used everybody's talents. The left, whoever, the anti-gunners, a lot of them weren't left, so let's not get political with it. But they're really good at using the talents of whoever they need to use the talents of, and you do that by knowing the talents of other people, and you get to know that by getting to know those people. So it all starts with networking, in my mind. I'm sorry I took so much time.
No, that's fine. That's sort of the idea of a workshop, so to let people extrapolate a little bit, and you did cover a bunch of things there. Now, as far as the networking, one of the things I do find lacking at gun rights is like a sign-in / I don't know what they call that, but I've been to some seminars where everybody will sign in and you'll have the opportunity to keep in touch with each other, some sort of circle. I forget what they call that. There's a lack of that, and I don't know if that's intentional or not. But as far as just I think it's a little bit of like, it's not there to hold your hand, it's there to be a conference, and to some extent there are very many competent people and they do all the things that we've talked about, but I think what we want to see is more determined effort with more using some of the skills and the tools that we've got available to us now, because obviously they're using whatever was available to them and they're familiar with. But yeah, you hit a lot of points there. As far as the unifying it going forward, I'm just going to add to that I don't think Trump would have been as casual to say something like that about suppressors if he knew there was a really strong Second Amendment, community out there, and we're going to have repercussions. He's not going to just casually talk about stuff, right? So we change an environment by getting stronger. I'm going to go to Smeggy next. Got to order a little bit. Smeggy's jumping in. You've been to a gun rights policy conference last year in Chicago. What would be your ultimate results of this year's gun rights policy? And do you think you're going to be able to attend this year?
I'm hoping so. I'm still trying to get stuff figured out, but I think the biggest goal is just getting everyone on the same page, and let's fight the anti-gun. Let's all get the same talking points, like some of you guys have mentioned. Get the same resources. Let's all share. We're all on the same team. There's no reason for infighting and all this stuff. Like, we all want the same thing. So I would just say my biggest goal is just everyone working together so that this dog right here can enjoy his Second Amendment rights. And he's got his ball, but he doesn't have a gun. So we're working on that still. And yeah,
but he's armed.
Oh, he's definitely armed. He's got some good old teeth.
There you go.
I find it impressive that Smeggy's able to talk even with a ball in his mouth.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, honestly, like you said, I did go to the Chicago one, and I really enjoyed it. I'm hoping to go to the next one. I still have some logistics to figure out, but let's just everyone get on the same page. We're all fighting for the same thing. Share resources, and honestly, like the stuff that's going on in Washington, I don't know if you guys mentioned earlier with the whole Yankee thing, getting people to donate to the GoFundMe and all that stuff. Like that's what this is. It's grassroots, and everyone tosses in a couple of bucks, and we can fight Bloomberg and all of his millions of dollars. and we can restore the Second Amendment.
And I got to assume, and maybe I'm wrong, but if Bloomberg sees that by dropping 50 million a year on an organization, and who knows how many times he does that each year and how many years he's planning on doing that, but I doubt he's even digging into his interest on his fortunes with this. At some point, you might think, my impression is, well, we're never going to be able to match him dollar for dollar. At least it'd be difficult to match him dollar for dollar. But am I wrong that if he sees that we start to become resilient and working together like never before because of his influence, do you think he changes tactic or be forced to change his tactic?
I think so, because there's a big difference between one person dropping, whatever, $50,000 and 50,000 people dropping $1. Like, that's a big difference. Like, all of those people vote. They have way more influence. So yes, the money is important, but the more important part is all of us people. I said in the chat earlier, and I know I stole it from the Gun Rights Policy Conference, but we are the gun lobby. It's not the big guys. It's not all the money. Us people, us little guys, this dog with the ball in his mouth. We are the gun lobby. So we all have a vote. We all have a voice. And I hope that he will get discouraged when he sees yes, he has a bunch of money, but all of us little people have a little bit of money. And when we add it all up together, it's more money or the same money that he has.
Well, and the function that allowed us all to come together and put money into one place indicates that we're working together, and that indicates that we could influence political elections and everything else that we might want to focus on, especially if we see a win, or even sometimes when you have a defeat, right? Or it gives you resolve. So again, I think if he sees that his 50 million is going to an effective use, and then a year later he sees that same amount of money created an enemy that he didn't have before, created resolve and competency in an adversary that he didn't expect. I don't know what the answer is to that, but I've gone off track. I wanted to leave Jeff to have the wrap up on this question. Since you've attended more gun rights policy conferences than any of us, I suspect, all put together, what would be your ultimate, and I guess should I add realistic? I don't know if any of us find ourselves to realistic, but what would be the ultimate goal of 2019's gun rights policy?
The Gun Rights Policy Conference is always the real goal of the Gun Rights Policy Conference every year is networking and us getting to know each other better and connecting with one another. And so that remains the major goal. Dad never took credit for it, but the GRPC, he talked Alan into doing this back 35 years ago, and actually twice received the Lifetime Achievement Award at the GRPC. And also, I think of interest is Dad, from about the late 70s, he started every speech with "Hello, Gun Lobby." Dad completely believed that you are the gun lobby, and that's a philosophy that we've always carried. And I really strongly believe that we really need to get that message out there. Something a lot of people don't realize is that on Sunday afternoons at the GRPC, we do resolutions. So if you have an idea or a direction that you'd like to see the movement move, write it up as a resolution and introduce it at the GRPC and put it on the table. It wasn't that many years ago. It was only 4 or 5 years ago that I put forward a resolution that we advocate for constitutional carry everywhere. And it was surprising to me the people who stood up and argued against passing that resolution, including Alan Gottlieb and Joe Tartareau and even Gary Marbut in Montana, for various reasons, and feeling like we all kind of want to get there but we don't want to seem too radical, and that and there's a lot of people that you can't trust and so forth. And I would not back down, and we passed that resolution. The people present supported it, and we moved forward with that. A resolution that I proposed many years ago at a gun rights policy conference was actually used as I think it was the forward for I just suddenly lost his name, the knife rights book about the miracle in was it New Hampshire? He was a New Jersey attorney that wrote this book, but that resolution, my resolution was that we recognize that when we talk about bearing arms, we're not just talking about guns. We're talking about bearing arms, anything that you can use in a defensive or offensive manner when the need arises. And that sort of was the impetus behind that move to open knife rights back up again and get some good legislation passed. Yeah,
Evan Knappen. Yep.
Yeah, Evan Knappen. That I'm very proud of that there's my resolution in his book. And so if you've got ideas, but one of the things about the gun rights movement is that it's not complicated. This is not rocket surgery. And that's one of the problems, because everybody and his brother believes he has the answer, and everybody needs to get behind me and follow me as I have the answer. And there isn't the answer. There are answers, and the solution to achieving those answers is to all move together. One of the things that I've advocated for many years is look at the history. The NRA and the gun lobby, the gun rights movement, grew and became its strongest when we were marching towards the Firearms Owners Protection Act, reforming the GCA of '68, and it was an omnibus rights bill, and we won a lot of skirmishes on the sides because we had brought everyone together to march towards that big omnibus goal, and we've never had a big omnibus goal like that in the movement since then. And I think that we really need that. But as far as GRPC,
well, let me just be a bad host and interrupt you. When you kind of set off the cuff there, we need that. I think, aren't we stronger if we figure out how to empower ourselves without that external?
No,
Okay.
we're not. And I give the example of Sherman marching to the sea. He's got a big, huge army, and as he's marching, the whole Northern Army is kind of falling into his ranks as he's marching to the sea, and reaping destruction through the South, and branching out. He's sending units out, engaging in skirmishes left and right as he's marching. And I think that's one of the things that we need. And I'm just talking legislatively, that I would like to see, because you've got the guys who want suppressors, you've got the guys who want or block the magazine bans, you've got the guys who want the 86 ban 86'd. You've got all of the various little components out there, and everybody is kind of marching to his own drummer. We need to get one main drum that we're all marching towards. And I'm not talking about one group or one concept. I'm talking about one block of ideas that are amalgamated together so that there's enough in that block that virtually everybody agrees with, that everybody agrees with something in the omnibus bill. And then you've got a more unified front, and with that unified front, you can crush the opposition. Do an Adam Kraut. We're going to crush, left and right. I'm hoping that at the 2019 that we'll see more of the YouTubers and new media in attendance and getting engaged and sharing what comes out of 2019 GRPC. But I think that the big thing is always that we network, that we get to know each other better, and that we keep moving. Dad always said that it's amazing what you can get done if you don't care who gets the credit. I think that's absolutely true, and there's a lot that we can do, and especially with these elections coming up. And I'm going to hit it again. Your local politicians, little politicians, grow up to be big politicians. And your local elections matter. Show up, say, hi, I'm here to volunteer and help. I have these skills, and I'm a gun guy. I oppose expanding background checks. I oppose red flag laws. I oppose magazine limits. I support suppressor deregulation. Do you agree with me? I'll go to work for you. And do it. Work for them. Help them. Because then you become their go-to guy for gun issues. You help answer their questions and keep them on the straight and narrow. You become an advisor. You become somebody that they trust. And that's really, really important. And you help get somebody good elected. And that's the big thing. So
I'm going to throw in there what Sean said in our chat the other day with the NRA. We were folks on the NRA, but he brought up a point that kind of addresses that too, that if you do all that stuff, it's all valid, but if you do all that stuff and the conclusion is the guy folds or buckles or betrays you, at the end of all that, are you the person that did nothing and just watched, or are you at least the person that tried? So it's not like we're going to be guaranteed. Nothing's owed to us. But I just wanted to put that in there. Like, don't get discouraged. We don't get wins every time either.
Well, it happens that we pick a dud every now and then. People who run for politics, there's a lot of duds out there, and for most of them the gun issue is not a principal issue, it's a political issue. And this is, in my opinion, the problem with the NRA right now, is that the leadership of the NRA has been treating it as a political issue. And it's, for us, it's a hard issue. It's a calling, and we have to, our main job is educators. When it comes to these politicians, we need to educate them so that they can easily say the right thing, that they know what the right thing to say is, and that they have the words to say it effectively, and that that when they are in doubt, they come to us, that we're their reference material. And if we go to work and we help get this guy elected and he turns on us, guess what? We're going to be working for the guy who's primarying him next time. And
with all that experience,
now we've got experience, and we can take his whole team possibly with us to that next guy and really push the primary. Affecting their ability to be elected is the power, and the gun lobby has that power. We, the gun lobby, have that power if we unite and focus on accomplishing those goals.
I love it. And just imagine if the people that are willing to put themselves into the gears and run for office and to do the volunteering, like your suggestion. And then honestly, you got to look at your life. Do we live on the best country, the best time in the world and the planet, and the best country on the planet, and what do you owe? So question you can answer yourself, and but if you, for whatever circumstances, it's not for you to run or to be involved or to volunteer, think about how much support we can offer those people. If someone's interested and willing to volunteer, they've got the time and their interest. What if you could help them to be their support? And help them with some other tasks and champion their efforts, be their PR people. And again, like Jeff said, they're the ear to the politician. Now you're their ear. So if again, it can be overwhelming to keep up with this, and it's obviously, I think it's actually unnecessary for us each to keep up with everything that's going on out there. Now, if an individual or a group really is fascinated by the day-to-day politics and comings and goings, and for some reason is really interested in helping to keep track of all that, obviously we need those people. But I think the majority of us, as long as we know where to find the information and have useful alerts to tell us when to look at the information when it's necessary, like Jeff has mentioned in other chats, we don't all have to be subject matter experts, as long as we all know who and when to support those who are the tip of the spear. And that's where, by simple organization, we can accomplish so much. And we're not asking anybody to go outside of their comfort zone or their ability to offer time to the battle. But what we do is we establish some systems and some routines, and those who come later can follow those and develop them. And as technology comes, we've created something instead of just drifting and observing.
Find the resources that you trust. Tap into those resources on a regular basis to be sure that you're at least cognizant of what's going on. Respond when those resources that you trust call on you to respond, and share that information around. Make sure that other people that you know care about this are tagged into the same resources that you are tagged into, and that you're tagged into their resources, so that you find the information that you need and that you trust, and put it to use. But that's really the key is communication. Finding where's the good information, get locked into it, share it,
and repeat.
Rinse and repeat. Absolutely.
And you know, it would be interesting to have a chat. I'd like to have a chat with you and Pincus and whoever you guys can think of that have been in the game for a while, because I'm thinking of what came to mind. There was a website that was around for quite a while called, I think it was just carry.org, and it was an awesome reciprocity resource back in the earlier internets. And you mentioned the one about the app, you know, and that was again in the earlier days of apps. A little simpler internet potentially, where you could keep track of the gun-friendly and gun-unfriendly restaurants and businesses and stuff. And you know, as those things come and go, we can't assume that the things that we use today, the tools we use today, are going to be useful or current or accessible in the future. You know, we wouldn't want to be stuck with hammers and screwdrivers in the age of soldering irons and transistors. And once we're past the hardware phase of that, we don't want to be stuck in a YouTube and a Facebook when everybody's on to the whatever the next thing is either. But anyway, so it's kind of going to just wrap it up with a general chat. We've hit a bunch of ideas, kind of let everybody talk about what they think would be the ultimate results of gun rights policy. If that brought up anything, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, we'll kind of slowly wrap up here towards the top of the hour, I guess.
Can I put a quick plug in real quick? When you're talking about resources, I found that the Firearm Policy Coalition website is a excellent resource for the day-to-day stuff that comes up. You know, let's fight this, let's support that. That's one of my favorite websites to go to whenever I do my wrap up, you know, monthly legislation update. So I just want to plug that for anyone who hasn't been there. Go check it out. There's always an action item, something to support, something to oppose. So I just wanted to plug that real quick.
We're talking about their action tab, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's something like, you know, take action or something like that. Something with action. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, take action. And yeah, they give a nice bullet point thing, and they've got these systems, like I was referring to a little bit earlier, about where they allow you to create a editable email alert to the...
Exactly. Yeah, you type in, like, you know, your name and where you live, and it connects you with the people that need to be connected to. And you can either send like the boilerplate email, or you can edit it to exactly what you want to say.
So now this is an example of what I was talking about. So this is an excellent resource right now. And it's been an excellent resource for, I'd say, maybe 2-3 years. But 5 years ago, I mean, I don't think they existed before 2014 or something. But whatever, at some point they just didn't have the resources, they didn't have the drive to do that particular tab or whatever. I mean, they're doing all kinds of other things, but that's one of those things where I guess I was saying that as we work together and use multiple angles of attack, I guess, then we're less reliant on, if something happens. Let's say something unintentional happens in California, they're just not able to do their thing. They have all the intent and willingness and ability to do it, they just can't. And we don't want to be stuck to where we're all just one-trick ponies, right? We want to have many creative, accomplished stuff.
Yeah, for sure. They're not the one and only. I wanted to plug it because you guys were kind of mentioning it. They're
perfect.
They're one of the best, but we all can be that. Like Jeff was saying, if you find something, tell it to all your friends, share it on whatever social media you have. Like that's the whole point. Like, get the word out.
And as these things have come and gone, the reason that they've gone, I doubt it's because they turned anti-gun. I suspect it's because the amount of time they could devote to them dwindled, and that was either because of lack of interest or lack of funding or both, right? So I think that, Jeff, when you talked, challenged what I was suggesting before, like, we don't want to have something where we have a million options always and we only have tiny entities to do battle. We need to have aircraft carriers, we need to have battleships, and I consider FPC one of our battleships, right? They're able to maneuver pretty smoothly. They've got quite a bit of arsenal on them, but they're not an aircraft carrier and they're not ground troops. They are what they are. They're playing a role, but we need big ones. We need foundations. We need stuff to stand on and things that we can see on the horizon. Oh, everybody's moving in that direction. We need big things. But I guess I was just saying we can't depend on our foundations being there forever. We need to be adaptable and understand that things get archaic. I mean, I have personal experience with the Arizona Citizens Defense League. Accomplished awesome things, but the software they use is archaic. It's frustrating as heck as a computer guy to deal with their archaic way of talking to each other.
We're working on that.
But it's effective, and that's why it's difficult to say, hey, I'm going to knock this house of cards down, because there's nothing wrong with it. It works for them. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. Is like, I was just saying things are temporary. But go ahead, Jeff.
Well, my point isn't about an organization or a single resource. My point was about goals, that we have legislative goals that we can all rally around, instead of having this little goal and that little goal and the other little goal. That we have this big goal that we can all rally around, saying, well, I support the Second Amendment. Well, Hillary Clinton said that. So what does that mean? But no, I think having goals that we can all agree on and that we can all take a part in that goal. Maybe suppressors are our primary object in the goal, but it's part of the bigger goal. So let's go for that bigger goal. But it's not about one organization or one resource. Use the resources that are out there, and tap into them, share them when they pop up. When you see something worthwhile, share it. Make sure it's true, and then share it.
Well, I got two things. Go ahead. Somebody gonna say something?
I was just going to add, when you're focusing on that large goal, and that I just refer back to that liberty being the goal, is going to bring more people in.
Yeah,
Maybe?
Right. Your goals have to be liberty oriented. Your objective. I mean, my objective is to restore the Constitution and the full Bill of Rights. But that's the big goal. And then you've got your narrower goal, and you go up in a pyramid shape, sort of. But I keep coming back to the same thing. Be a parrot. Find the resources that you trust, that you believe in, that you think are presenting or be that resource, be that resource to your sphere of influence. So, I try and put out good quality information on a regular basis and try and get it out as widely distributed as I can. When I see other people putting out good quality information that I don't have time to focus on or write about myself, you betcha I'm out there sharing that out and trying to share that with my audience. And I encourage everybody to be doing that exact same thing, whether you run a giant YouTube channel or you have 5 friends on Facebook. Find good information and share it with the people who you think will care about it.
Well, and it serves a function too. The internet works. It's just a bunch of switches. So by influence, you are influencing the internet by utilizing it. So there's not only just the benefit of the human beings potentially being alerted, but you're actually interacting with the systems. I was going to ask, when you were talking a bit before about where the gun lobby. Again, something that Sean brought up from We Like Shooting during that NRA chat we had a while back. The idea that legislation is the result, or like something about the failure of lobbying. And what's everybody's take on the idea of, is it like a the nickel of prevention and dollar of whatever that saying is it, if we spend our attention on lobbying, are we better off than having to then get dollars together to fight in court? Or do we need to have things fight through court in order to accomplish goals? So there's like a balance. Or anybody want to jump in on this one?
Well, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And absolutely, if we can block stuff from happening, then we don't have to spend money on litigation, and we don't have to spend money on trying to bring it back. Thank goodness the assault weapons ban was not grandfathered, but sunset, so that it died, and we were able to keep it from being re-upped after it had expired, and so it went away, and that's important.
I'd like to think that it's a combination of everything. I think that we have to be vigilant in stopping this before it happens, but we also, I mean, the unsung hero to a lot of people is the Second Amendment Foundation, whose goal and resources are put towards the court system. So I think that you have to try to fight these things, but we have to all admit that eventually some of this stuff's going to get passed one way or another, and we have to have the court system to shoot it down. We have to have the lawyers and the people fighting the fight on all fronts. If we're just a one front attack, then we're an easy enemy to defeat. If we're coming from many different planks, many different strategies, I think that's where we're strongest.
Oh, of course, you've got to have the full game. You can't have only one trick in your toolbox. But the best is to keep it from ever happening and change the culture. I mean, that's the ultimate objective, is to
Right. I think so.
to correct the culture and get them to understand that liberty is important. Get them to understand that everybody's liberty is important, just as we believe that all guns are important. Any gun, any style, any type, all ammo, whatever. We defend that. We fight for that. Knives, swords, nunchucks, brass knuckles, whatever it is, it's not the tool, it's the guy with the tool. And that's where the focus needs to be, and liberty needs to prevail. So we need to change the culture. But in that process, yes, we're going to try and keep it from going south. We're going to try and improve what's already gone south. And then we're going to try and battle back when we lose.
On Patriots Liberty thing too, I'd like to throw in another angle at that. Of course, he jumped out right now, but there he goes. So on Patriots Liberty angle, I think it's a bit of a nice politically correct, or like kind of tongue in cheek. I don't know what way to say it, but like a nice way of saying that meme, like there's so many gun owners and so much ammunition, so many guns. If we were a problem, you'd know it. Get that point across to people. Hey, we've been here and we're here. Like, leave us alone. We leave you alone. We do leave you alone. Leave us alone. It's our life. So we don't need them to have the same values we do, right? We just need them to understand that our values are valid, and that they don't have a right to infringe on our values, and our values are not affecting them. They're being misled that our values are somehow detrimental to their way of life, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about, preventing laws versus fighting them in the courts, like was mentioned earlier, both of those strategies are valid. Part of me thinks that it's almost better to have an anti-gun law, go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and then they say, no, this is not allowed, because then it can never be introduced again, because the Supreme Court already said, like, no, people are allowed to own guns, people are allowed to carry guns, like whatever the case happens to be related to. That is a strong point for our side when we get the correct court decision to say, people are allowed to have a Second Amendment. We're, reaffirming that. So sometimes one bad law in a certain state, if it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, and then they say, yeah, no one's allowed to make a law that's similar to this ever again, that's almost better than, playing whack-a-mole and stopping them every single time they pop up.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes an Alamo is your best, is the best outcome. And the assault weapons ban was to a degree an example of that. It really rallied the troops. It made a difference, and they were afraid to touch any kind of gun law for the next 20 years. And now Bloomberg's money has convinced them that we really aren't the third rail. And between Bloomberg's money and Republicans not doing what they promised that they would do, gun voters have pretty much put themselves on the sidelines by not being effective, by not voting as a bloc, by not turning out. And we've allowed these politicians who are rabidly spouting anti-rights nonsense to get elected and not even put up a good fight against them because, well, the Republicans not much better. Well, he's some better. If he's any better, we can't sit on the sidelines. We can't afford to sit on the sidelines. We absolutely have to get involved, and we have to shut down the antis in every way we possibly can.
Hey, G, you mind if I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
A couple weeks ago, you and Clover had a chat. We talked about the 2020 election and the gun community and all that. And I think having Tony and Smeggy and obviously Jeff here would be an interesting question, because Clover at the time brought up a great idea and a great point that we have to make the Second Amendment a more relevant political election issue, where it's important to us, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a very small issue when it comes to national elections. So I want to ask, like, Tony, Smeggy, and Jeff, their ideas of how do we make the Second Amendment a more relative issue when it comes to elections.
It really comes down to gun voters voting. We have the power in most jurisdictions. We have the power to move an election anywhere from about 2 points to as much as 4 or 5 points. And that's the power to change the outcome of a whole lot of elections. So we have to flex that muscle. We have to quit saying, oh, a pox on both their houses. I'm going to go hunting. Well, there's no hope, and I'm just going to go stock up on ammunition and wait for the revolution to happen. That isn't getting us where we need to go. We absolutely have to step up and flex our muscle by going to the polls, and just voting isn't enough. We have to work for politicians that are for us, and we have to work against politicians that are against us. And if working against a politician who is against us means that we're working for a politician that we don't particularly like and isn't strongly for us, well, we have to do that too, because we have to defeat. You know, Donald Trump was not my favorite candidate. I did not trust him. I wrote about it several times early in the election. But when push came to shove, it's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I voted against Hillary Clinton. And I did that by voting for Donald Trump. And we have to look at it that way. The idea of ideological purity, yeah, that's great on paper, but when it comes down to the rubber hitting the road, if we don't turn out and vote, we get Nancy Pelosi as the Speaker of the House. Welcome to 2018. We absolutely have to flex that muscle, and if we fail to flex that muscle in 2020, we are in very, very bad shape going forward.
I don't want to cut Tony or Smeggy off, but
Yeah.
I'll just throw in there that it sounds like we're just saying, like, here's a bunch of stuff to do. And I literally had a dude from Gun Channels. No, I don't think Smeggy knows who this guy is, but it's been around since he's been around. And he was intermittent back in the day. But I consider him a super valuable, one of the most valuable members of Gun Channels over the years, the community, because he was just such an interesting. I didn't even know such a person existed. His life story or whatever was amazing to me. I just didn't even know. And that the result of all his experiences was that he became a gun owner, and kind of in spite of so many things. And every once in a while he'll comment on something. And he commented something about, I think it was Sean. And you know how we did a 2-hour chat with a bunch of people. And then I took that 2 hours and chopped it up into little pieces, like 30 little pieces, so that some of the key points that were kind of distributed in the 2-hour conversation could be grouped together, but then also just focused on, shed some light on some individual things. So it's going to, hit the channel pretty hard. And anyway, this guy took it as, it's not preaching to the choir. What's it called when somebody's better than you and telling you how you're not doing as good as them, like that, he thought it was offensive that someone would suggest that because I did this and you didn't, you're bad. So his reaction was, so I'm not good. And anyway, that was super frustrating. And in telling the story, I totally forgot why I was telling that story. But I guess, I don't know, what did we start that with? I was going to cut off Smeggy and Tony from answering Ghost's question to somehow that was pertinent at the time. So go ahead, Smeggy. I was just going to say, we're going to wrap it up here, mainly because Jeff's got to jump off, and in case we need a chance to chat offline, which is sometimes very useful. One of the reasons we do these conversations so that we can get together in front of everybody, so that we can inspire and collaborate, but also so we can get off air and network and chat about secrets and whatnot. But I didn't want to cut off Smeggy and Tony. That Ghost had an interesting question. Oh, I guess here was going to say, I finally remembered after blabbing for enough time. Jeff was suggesting that a bunch of stuff, like, and that's what this guy was saying, that like, oh, you guys do, and you're preaching about how what you did, and if we don't do it, we're not good enough, so I'm not going to even bother, right? I don't think that's what Jeff is saying. Jeff is saying, here's a thing that can be done. What we can take from this as content creators going into 2020 to actually have a piece of something that we can use to affect change, and an actual call to action is act locally. Like, this is an election where it's important to work with your sheriffs, work with your locals, all the stuff. I don't have to go into it again, but wrap all that up with the call to action of, if the entire Second Amendment media, which this is unprecedented, except for when Obama came after us in the beginning of 2013, then none of us have ever come together for anything. So if we could deliberately come together with that idea of, this year we need to start local. Like, I know there's going to be a lot of distraction, and whatever our individual messages are, the message is, get involved local. If it's support people that are able to do it, whatever the stuff we've all talked about tonight, I think that's what I just wanted to break in there and say, I think we can actually take that call to action out of this conversation. And if we put that out there to a media, what if we suggested this election cycle, everyone, whatever a better way of saying it, gets involved local. I just want to throw that out there as a super ass long way of interjecting that kernel. It took me a while to remember it again. But Smeggy, Tony, answer Ghost questions if you want to. Then you guys have already all said goodbye, so we'll kind of wrap it up quickly. And but go ahead.
I worked. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tony.
I work the election polls. That's one of the things I do. June 4th, we just had the primaries in the state. 3% of the people in my district voted. 3%. So when I listen to gun owners, because we have 1 million registered gun owners in the state of New Jersey, talk about stupid things, and I'll go ahead and say it's stupid, like when they say we don't have a voice. Literally, voting is your voice, and 97% of the people stayed home. You don't have a voice if you don't use it. This is why I continually push local politics. The entire New Jersey Assembly is up for re-election this year. We could have changed the entire landscape of a blue state if just the registered gun owners would have come out. Just you and 15, 20 of your friends could have pushed the status quo right off the ballot by writing it in, just by coming out and writing it. In New Jersey, we lost a great opportunity because a lot of gun people don't want to be bothered with politics. They're tired of us and people like us telling them they need to vote. Well, paying your fees, like joining the Second Amendment group, is great, but if all you're doing is paying fees, you're not helping as much as you could be. This is a fight. This is a fight for our rights. You can look at Venezuela and see how long it took to turn around taking their guns to the point that it became tyranny. It's going to happen fast, and it's going to happen because gun owners didn't do anything. So I don't care what you have to do. I don't care if you have to watch the first Red Dawn over and over again before you get all hyped up and run out and volunteer to help somebody. Do whatever you need to do to help the right people get elected this year. Volunteer, help groups, I don't care. And also try to grow the Second Amendment community. Whatever you are, try to get like-minded people like you together, or like whatever. You don't have to go across lines like I do, but if you can, great. But if you can't, get people that look like you, act like you, and believe in the same things as you to come to the range and shoot, and then become politically active. That's what needs to be done. And I don't even remember what question Ghost asked.
Well, I'll just add on to that.
Hold on. Let Ghost reiterate the question, because then might as well get it back on topic real quick.
I was just the original question, and you guys are doing a great job, because I think that's exactly how it is through our voice, through the power of the vote. But the question basically was that I'm looking for ideas that we could all utilize to make the Second Amendment a more relative issue and a prevalent issue in the election. Instead of being number 8, 9, 10, 15 on the list of importance, push it up there to where they understand that we're serious about our rights and we're going to make it an issue in the election.
I think if you do it on a local level, starting on a local level, they listen more, because this is the congressman or assemblyman down the street. You know what I mean? That's where you start. And show up at those town meetings. I lived in Trenton. There's 225,000 people in that population. There are 50 chairs in City Hall for town meetings. No one shows up. It doesn't take a lot of people to make the needle move. Look around at the Moms Demand and look at the real numbers when they show up. There's not many of them. It's not going to take a lot of us to get motivated and get active to move the needle, and we really have to do it. We fall for the okie doke. We fall for the same false narrative that we claim everyone else is. We think there's a lot of people on the other side pushing back, and there isn't. There's just a loud minority that's well paid. We need to be on the volunteer side pushing the other way. And when we show up every week or every month for these meetings, and we get to know the people, and we're calling our representatives, and we're writing them physical letters, and we're going to places where they make speeches. it's not going to take all day. It's not going to take every waking minute, but you need to plan this. And if everybody just says they're going to put X amount of time together as a gun owner to actually be politically active and make the needle move, I think we'd be a force to be reckoned with.
Dude,
But it takes
let me
everybody making that choice.
put that host again, and just to reiterate that, imagine if right now, if everybody did a Second Amendment thing once a month, everybody, blink, will, wave a magic wand, everybody does something once a month. Imagine, and that's just once a month. It's not going to be anywhere near that, but nobody does it right now, really. So if it's not even like you're asking somebody to do something daily or weekly, even do something monthly, and that's 12 times more per year than we've had yet. Smeggy.
All right, yeah. So I just want to kind of add on to what Jeff and Tony both said, because I agree. You got to vote with your voice. That's your main power. But I just want to add on, not only vote, but tell the person you voted for the reason why you voted for them. An example personal to me, back in Michigan, there was a guy, he's actually from my district, the representative, Patrick Colbeck. He was running for governor. He lost the primary, so he didn't end up, actually running for governor. He was in the primary part. But I met him at a 2A rally in Lansing. And, I shook his hand, introduced myself, and said, I like that you support the Second Amendment. I will be voting for you solely on the basis that you support the Second Amendment. So I agree that your vote is your voice, but if you just vote and never tell the person why you voted for them, they might think that you really like, their healthcare bill or their, thing on taxes or whatever. No, tell them you only like them because they support the Second Amendment. So whatever else they do, you could tell them, hey, I like that, I don't like that, whatever. But you tell them, if you don't support the second, you will never get my vote ever again. And I know I've said it a million times before in different chats and all that. And maybe I'm a little a little dreamy or whatever. But I truly believe that we could live in a country where we get to vote between a pro-gun Democrat and a pro-gun Republican. If that's the choice, then you can base it on other stuff. I want to see both sides pro-gun. I hate the red, blue, left, right, blah, 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 all that crap. Let's all be pro-gun, and then I'll be happy.
Dude, I don't know if it's living out there that's got more insight or what, but I've never heard anybody say that before. I like that one. That sums it up well. I want to be able to vote between a pro-gun Democrat and a pro-gun Republican. That could be a T-shirt.
You bet.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
I'll still vote for the Libertarian, but at least those are the two choices.
Well, I like
because I'm kind of the weird third-party guy.
But like in a meme way, that gets so much message across, right? But again, I'm going to reiterate, hopefully on a T-shirt that doesn't desecrate the American flag. So I promised everybody that I would end it, and I'm going to end it here. Again, we've had a long conversation. It's a workshop, so it was messy. Appreciate the people that participated in the conversation here in the panel, the people that were participating on gunchannels.com, a community built for conversations like this, a place that we own, me, and these guys, ready for it? We own it. It's for conversations like this. Feel free to use it. There's no cost, there's no obligation, but it's a tool. And then on YouTube, another tool that we use in our inventory, and it should just be one of many. We started this whole thing off for a couple of reasons: to have a workshop, to offer a place to have this kind of conversation. Today it was focused on talking about Adobe Illustrator and in creating graphics and images, creating a patch for the Indiegogo campaign that I've got going, and then talking about crowdfunding, and we talked a little bit about stores and stuff. The reason I'm going back and talking about that is because we talked about a lot of topics tonight. So if you're a content creator, I hope that there's lots of content creators. Everyone out there who's listening to this, guess what? You could be a content creator. It's not a magical thing. You have to apply for anything. Just take your phone, take your computer, ask questions, use tutorials on the web, and feel free to take this the same way I took the NRA show. Download it as a file, put it into your video editor, chop it up. If there was some interesting pieces, chop them and erase the rest and post that as a video. Feel free. I appreciate it if you'd link to CloverTac, to Ghost, to Firearms Coalition, to Patriots channel, to I don't know, Smeggy, where do you want them to link to? maybe your 2A Second Amendment or your Every Second Matters posts on.
Yeah, for sure. Every second matters.
And then of course Tony's 2A for E. But feel free to take the video and use it as a piece of content to edit and post those. And every time you share stuff on the internet, you're creating data points. You're influencing the way the internet sees things. So there's lots of validity there. Again, thanks to everyone who supports our projects. We use Patreon, which is where the majority of the funding for our projects come on. And then, of course, the people that purchase things over at the Gear website store. Consider each of the people on these panel, if you'd like to buy them a cup of coffee. I think most of them have either a Patreon account or, like Jeff's website, a link. You can give Jeff $10 and get 100 of those cards in your support in his efforts. Imagine, again, if we had the kind of views. I was looking over on YouTube at some of the live things right now. And of course, video games and sports are going to get massive views, but just some of the weird stuff, there's lots of views out there. So maybe have a discussion, and we could have a future discussion on how to get more viewers. But imagine if 1,000 people were dropping cups of coffee on some of the projects in this panel and some of the others that we know about. It would change the environment. So let's work towards that. Thanks everybody for your participation. We'll have as many more of these as possible.
The guys and gals of gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching gunwebsites.com.